No Politic Here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10th episode of No Politic Here.
I think it's
we've
the
got
ninth.
a very... The ninth? Oh, okay.
think so.
The 9th episode of No Politic Here. My sincerest apologies. Shall I start that again, or...?
No, keep it in.
Okay,
They need to
let's
know.
just run with it. Yeah, so welcome to the 9th episode of No Politic Here, not the 10th episode. Sorry, I am just overexcited about our wonderful guest, James Ray. James, how are you doing? Do you want to say hello, introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm James. I'm an organizer with the Democratic Socialists of America out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, out in the United States. I'm just happy to be here, guys. This is really fun. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
And Isaac, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I've had quite the week. I was telling you guys before we started that I had like a headache for the whole week, and then I got a cool massage, and then she convinced me to do cupping, and now my back looks insane. It looks like I got into a fight with a squid.
I did
hell
not
yeah.
know where that was going when you said she convinced me during a massage. I was not sure what you were about to say, mate.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, mind out the gutter. But I mean, as always, we're back for like another sort of crazy week once again in Trump's America, and generally just America on the whole. It really feels like every week it's something different. I mean, I don't think at our previous episode Alex Pretti had even been shot as of yet, which was obviously the killing of an unarmed, a protester who had a concealed carry, which the US government then sought to claim had come over to massacre law enforcement agents and cooked up some of the most deranged lies that actually reached the point of a derangement where it clearly was indefensible amongst the base. And so now there was a claimed ICE drawdown in Minnesota. Tom Homan said this, the border czar, I don't know why he's called a czar, but he claimed there was a drawdown. But I will send this to you, Isaac, and I will get you to put it in.
Yeah.
Trump actually claimed, I believe earlier today or yesterday, no, we're not drawing down, we're staying there. So mixed messaging, but what it does seem is that there is some upset over the handling because, you know, the Trump administration probably could have spun this in one way, and it seems Trump has a pretty set rhetoric, which is like, oh, he had a gun at a protest, that's the problem. But them saying he came to massacre law enforcement agents when the video proves the exact opposite is insane. I mean, James, as someone who actually lives in America, does organizing and such, how have you what are your thoughts on kind of, everything that's happening?
It's a loaded question. I'm not a fan. I guess is what I will say. I don't know. There's a lot going on, right? I mean, we're seeing really the intensification of what has been decades long violent activities by DHS and ICE in particular, right? I think it's worth contextualizing ICE's violence that we're seeing now, and DHS and really Border Patrol's violence that we're seeing now in cities like Minneapolis with the long-standing history of abuse by these agencies. Realistically, since its founding, ICE, really DHS too, has been a violent institution that's been made to crack down on quote unquote dissidents or quote unquote undesirables within U.S. Body politic. So you have obviously mass targeting of immigrants. You have throwing of countless people inside of detention facilities, people who are even U.S. citizens, things like this. Although the distinction to me, it doesn't really matter a whole lot because bodies are still getting thrown in a fucking detention facility in a concentration camp functionally, right? Where I am in...
Don't think that's just you who thinks the thing about that. No, I think the administration doesn't really give a shit amongst whether you're a documented or an undocumented immigrant.
No.
I don't think it matters at all. I think the people at the top are more concerned about whiteness, ultimately, whether you're white or not. And, watching... the person who we first wanted to talk about. Are you familiar with this? Isaac, you can now show it. Have you seen Greg Bovino's Twitter account?
No, I try to stay the hell away from it, to be honest.
No. The Greg Bovino Twitter account is incredible. Isaac, do you want to click on?
Yeah. Boom.
So
that the one?
Greg Bovino is
Oh, he's a reply guy. Holy shit.
Bro, he's a major reply guy. He constantly replies to people saying following if they say that they like him, or he'll argue with people and say, what are you going to do about it? One time he's beefing some guy and he's like, what are you going to do about it? And then he says, cat got your tongue, but he uses a cat and a tongue emoji. So as you can see here, it's quite clear.
Oh my God, the fucking emoji usage is awesome.
Yeah. So here he is interacting with P-Ray for Congress IL7. Isaac,
Nice.
would you like to read Greg
Sure, man.
Bovino's part?
Greg goes, "We are truly grateful to have met this gentleman and his compatriots on our first day. Our first day is all capitalized. We will work hard for these taxpayers, and we will be back to visit them soon and see how things are going. American flag, muscle, muscle, cowboy, shoe, stiletto? Cowboy stiletto,
Boot,
cowboy
boot.
stiletto. Oh, boot. Gator and heart.
P-Ray for Congress IL7. What does IL7 mean? Some district, right? Or something?
Yeah, like 7th
Probably,
Illinois
yeah.
Congressional District, I would imagine.
Proceeds to say, let me know when you're coming. We can set something up in Austin too. Oh, there's the answer. It's in Austin. You just don't know how happy Black Chicago is to see you. Thank you so much for coming to save us. God bless your mission.
Save us.
James, you can
Is this
you can
real?
read
This is nuts.
you can read Greg's next tweet.
Like, thank you and God bless you too. We'll be back and would love to meet up in Austin. American flag emoji, American flag. This is awesome.
OMG, thank you. I'll be here when you're ready. This is such an honor.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if that's what
That
his
is
accent
kind
sounds
of
like.
how he talks. That is kind of how he talks. He has
God,
a very,
I hate it. He does kind of have the accent. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
He hasn't got much, like, I always think that this is something worth mentioning about Trump. Everyone wants to impersonate Trump because his mannerisms are so comical, and there's a certain thing about his ability to appear on camera. The unfortunate thing is, so many people who surround him and like his project are so weird and
Yeah,
like
like
grotesque to
Stephen
see
Miller.
on camera. Stephen Miller, Greg
Yeah.
Bovino, JD Vance doesn't come across as like,
No,
you know,
Trump he's shouldering the burden, dude. He's doing it all.
But yeah, I mean, these tweets are like incredible. Oh, wait, we missed the final one. Yes, ma'am. The honor of meeting you will be epic.
Oh God, it's like Reddit fucking commentary. This is awful.
It's also quite weird posting. Like, I don't know. It's quite like it feels like quite charged, you know, that maybe he's going to meet this woman for more than just border
It
enforcement
feels like my
activities.
guy is he's a little thirsty on the TL.
Yeah.
He's thirsty on Maine.
That's
Well-
why they took his Twitter account away.
Did they
You got to
actually?
stop this shit. Yeah, I heard they did. I heard they like suspended his Twitter access. Like the
Yeah.
department did, which you got to be pretty fucking bad for DHS to be like, bro, like
Yeah.
you can't be logging in.
I mean, just during the day, like during when he's meant to be doing enforcement operations, he just spends his time like posting all day constantly about like. So Isaac, if you can you access the actual thread?
This, I actually cannot access this. Wait, because I'm on
I
edge
have
right
to-
now. I don't know why I'm on edge.
I have to feel like this is like what he does in between like
Oh, here
jumping
you
into
go.
the truck and going to the next like fucking Hitlerian little raid. Like he's like, oh, I gotta get on Twitter. Like I like to think Bovino's just like a poster. You know, he's like, fuck, I gotta get the interactions up. Like,
Dude.
he's like checking his analytics and shit.
But the thing
There's
is
more.
no one's interacting with him. Yeah, do you want to take the first part, Isaac?
Thank you so much on behalf of the West Side of Chicago.
Thank you, P. Ray. Good to hear from you.
It's
How can I
exactly what the
book
West
you?
Side of Chicago wants. It's fucking Bovino.
I feel like
How
it's
can I
such
book you for an event to explain your purpose to our community?
Ma'am, can you DM me your contact information? As usual, a pleasure hearing from you.
Yeah,
Bro,
it's like what's Bovino's role? It's like, oh well, this is 4'5" Hitler. He's here to just burn shit. I don't know. Like
yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard this about him, but it's on his Wikipedia page, so I'm just going to assume it's true. But apparently he got the idea to become a border patrol officer, whatever the hell he is, because he watched the movie The Border from 1982.
God damn it. Tyrants used to have good fucking storytelling behind what they did, right? You get like Alexander the Great was like, no, my father, we took Greece as the Macedonians and we're spreading empire. And like Bovino's like, yeah, I watched a fucking movie. I decided I wanted to be like, Eichmann. I don't know.
I did the slightest amount of research into this movie, meaning I watched the trailer, and it has this banger quote, and it says, "Within every man, there is a border. Once he crosses it, there is no going back. And this motherfucker is probably like, I don't know how old he was, 8 or 10, and saw that shit and was like, I know what I'm going to do with my life.
Have you seen the... Wait. There is actually a video.
He just saw the right TikTok edit. He's like, fuck yeah, let's do it, boys. Like,
Did either of you see the... Someone posted this. I know you know, Isaac. James, have you ever heard of someone called SD Kid?
I feel like I do. I don't know.
He's like a Liverpool-based rapper from the UK.
Oh, yeah,
who did the thing
yeah.
with Timothy
Chalamet. Yeah, that's a banger.
One of his songs was on an Israeli military like advert of them like doing epic operations of like blowing up some kids or something. And I was like, did he approve this or?
There's no way, right? Could you imagine the email for that? Like the IDF, like Ministry of Communications or whatever is like, hey, we want to like do a sick like fucking reel of us just like cranking 90s on toddlers. Like, can we use your video?
Yeah, I mean, like the Israeli, have you seen like the IOF official accounts? They do post some pretty crazy shit. The one with the baby was one of the craziest ones.
Well, the crazy thing too is like, there's like a whole team behind that who they're like they're making these edits on like fucking CapCut, and they're like, yo, this is the best we can do, guys. Like the world's gonna love us. Like it's crazy.
Isaac, I've just sent you a video to quickly play as well of an incredible video of Greg Bovino talking to some of his ICE friends, which is really, really quite something. And there is a man in it who is shorter than Greg Bovino, which is an incredible thing, who is an ICE agent as well. And, not as someone who is not that tall myself, I do think that there is this certain element amongst, or I hate to psychoanalyze, but like, I think there's this certain element in Greg Bovino of like his brutality and behavior that might come from being a small little man.
Mm-hmm. No, I know 10 Greg Bovinos from my hometown. Like they all became police. Like it's just like every guy who got bullied in high school.
Everybody knows a Greg Bovino.
Everybody knows a Greg Bovino.
Do you want to play?
Yeah.
Arrest as many people that touch you as you want to. Those are the general orders all the way to the top. Everybody fucking gets it if they touch you. You hear what I'm saying? Less legals. We're going to look at shipping tractor trailer loads of that shit in here. So you
look, there he is.
It's all about us now. It ain't about them. Professional, legal, ethical, moral. You know what we're talking about. Legal, ethical,
he had to make sure they heard that. He's like, hey guys, so we're following the rules. Like,
wait.
Stopped.
Look. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to say about this video. Like a main thing I would note is, first of all, the guy, he comes, don't worry, there's a more clear image of the very small man, but it's the guy stood next to him, like right next to him. That shit, rocking up, sorry, the guy on his right, rocking up in that kind of military gear, in like a standard area is, in like just a standard city is insane. Like,
well, that's just LAPD street patrol. Like that guy's writing tickets for cars in the wrong parking spot. Like,
that's fucked.
You can carry on playing.
Yeah. About legal, ethical, moral. You're on camera, but other than that, it's what we do.
What does that mean? Like watch it because you're on camera?
He wants to give a cool war speech so fucking bad, but he's in like the middle of Hollywood, so he can't.
What a dork, man.
And also, it's like, how much can you really G people up? I mean, a lot of these people are racist, so they actually probably do feel like they're doing something amazing. But like,
and these guys all want to be military. Like they're cosplaying military fucking badly.
Just pull back a second, Isaac. Literally like a set. There we go. Look how. Play the video so we can hear the end bit.
It's what we do. The city is a team. It's fucking ours. It's our fucking city.
Look at this guy. Look how small he is.
He's doing like a pep talk, like he's talking to a football team.
He also sounds like,
hey guys, coach was right. We just gotta play harder. Like
he also sounds like, certain people who swear to try and sound cool, but they're not very good at it, and it doesn't sound cool. That's how he kind of makes me feel.
Cuss like yesterday.
Yeah. I guess your commentary is right, though, that police just do sort of dress like that in the fucking US anyway at the best of times, let alone during when they're carrying out like a full-on occupation of a city, Is that, would you kind of do you think that that's an apt term to refer to it?
Like ICE is an occupational agency?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like, I think you can make an argument broadly that like police constitute an occupational force in a lot of like, you know, cities and townships, whatever. Like even from like the U.S. like settler colonial dynamic, you could make a very distinct argument that like U.S. law enforcement plays like an occupational role in the communities they exist in. But like, yeah, no, ICE is absolutely an occupational agency. Like, I mean, like they're coming into major cities. A lot of these guys are not even fucking from there. You look at the internal reporting from guys like Ken Klippenstein who are like showing like what these ICE officers are doing, how they're getting people shipped up. It's a bunch of out of town chuds who are coming in because they think that like Minneapolis is Fallujah. And they're trying to like walk in and just start beating the shit out of whoever they can. Like these guys are like, they're keyed up like they're going into a war zone. And like a lot of that is the recruiting that you see from ICE anyway. Like they're recruiting like documents, like all of the ads they're putting out and stuff like that is all like, you know, we are going to war and we need you. And it's like, yeah.
I guess that kind of brings us to this brilliant Thomas Friedman article, which I guess all three of us have read.
Yeah.
But it's titled Minneapolis and Gaza now share the same violent language. Now, all three of us would probably just off of that title assume that he was going to draw the connection between the Israeli occupational forces and ICE, given the brutality and the similarities.
Yeah.
But that's not actually what he does, really. He just kind of condom hummuses his way through the whole thing. He equates Trump and Israel's state-sanctioned violence with Palestinian resistance. He pretty much just says, Hamas started this war, which is a direct quote from the article.
Yeah.
And then just kind of likens Hamas to ICE agents. And one of his banger quotes from the piece is, well, it's the fact that Hamas and ICE share many similarities because they both wear masks. Incredible analysis.
I honestly like that PhD level shit right there. That's pretty solid.
These two things are the same because they wear the same clothes. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like it's such a dog shit. It's such a dog shit comparison, and really is indicative of how lacking the talent is in mainstream media. That this guy is a veteran Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, as we were just sort of looking into pre-stream. But it's also insane because obviously the reason Hamas wear masks, by the way, is first of all to protect themselves in the sense of Israel has a lot of facial recognition tech. But also, one would probably make the argument to protect their fucking families because however you feel about how all of these people would never justify this for any conventional military that like all of their family members deserve to die. Israel has AI systems which are based on facial recognition and like they also infiltrate social media and like recognize people and try and catch people through that. But like they've been executing entire families of low-level Hamas members. They're not wearing masks so that they can carry out like a crackdown on opposition forces in Gaza. They're wearing them because Israel uses facial recognition. Yeah. It's not about, of course they're not going to, Hamas are not a democratic government. They're not like accountable in the sense of they're not wearing masks because of like a need to escape accountability. It's to escape being massacred alongside their families.
The Israeli
Israel.
Surveillance state. I mean, it's such a superficial comparison to draw. Like Group A and Group B share some sort of cosmetic features, so they are the same. Like Thomas Friedman wears like a collar and a leash when his wife's boyfriend comes over, but I wouldn't say he's a dog because of that. It's just a very superficial comparison to make for a guy who's supposed to be like an intellectual or whatever the fuck.
And it's also incredible because part of the thing is the actual far more apt comparison is Israeli soldiers have increasingly worn masks. Increasingly, there's all those incredible photos where they're turned around. But they wear masks in the West Bank to actually evade the same kind of accountability that ICE are facing right now, which is citizen journalists and journalists generally documenting who they are, what they do to, innocent civilians. And that's what the Israeli military are wearing masks for, so they can carry out brutality. But they predominantly do it in the West Bank. I mean, some will in photos in Gaza, but obviously I'd assume most of the time they don't because there is no accountability, because no one can really film them because they'll just kill them. But in the context of the West Bank, it is to evade any semblance of accountability, just like Israel is doing. But he's so Israel-pilled, he's so pro-Israel that he can't even recognize that,
What was the story you were telling us about him and Edward Said from earlier.
Oh, yeah, there's an incredible Edward Said article which is talking about how Friedman was one of the biggest advocates of Oslo, and then he was in the West Bank during the Second Intifada, and he just was like, oh yeah, I was wrong. Palestinians don't live any kind of meaningful life. Israelis control everything. It's all a lie, like this notion that Palestinians have any right to choose. And it's so funny as well, because these same people who hyperfixate on Hamas, they're like, they're the problem, they're the issue, are also able to look at the West Bank and see, hey, when you cede to Israel, when you give up your weaponry and denounce armed struggle, nothing better comes from it. If you know what I don't think that that's an argument. And the most incredible part of this article for me is where he says Trump, Bibi, and Hamas each have their eyes on the prize, the 2026 elections. The people of Minnesota, Israel, and Gaza must keep that in mind. Because if Trump maintains control of Congress, if Bibi wins re-election, and if Hamas seizes control of the Palestinian movement, all three societies will head into darkness from which recovery will be agonizingly difficult.
Liberal Zionism's a motherfucker. It's crazy. Friedman's very fascinating too, because pieces like this are essentially Zionists trying to reinsert themselves into progressive conversation and progressive spaces by using this anti-ICE rhetoric, and they do this all the fucking time. Liberal Zionists in so many spaces will be this is ICE is really bad, and or this police violence is really bad, and it's but the apartheid colony over there is pretty sick, guys. I don't know, they're pretty we just need to get rid of Bibi and it's all gonna be chill, and it's it's crazy to me. I mean, also the election stuff in the U.S. is hilarious too. The fact that we're talking about 2028 midterm elections while people are getting executed street side in Minneapolis is insane. But
yeah, I and also the fact of as everyone should be aware, if Netanyahu is to lose, he'll lose to Naftali Bennett, who built more settlements than Netanyahu did, probably not than this current Netanyahu term, but in the previous Netanyahu term before he was displaced in, I believe, 2021, 2022. The Bennett-Lapid government built accelerated settlement. Bennett has shown no major opposition to the genocide in Gaza, just largely, Netanyahu handled the war badly, didn't get the hostages back, and he's a full-throated supporter of the Zionist project and the settler project. What is this fundamental change? You're a senior journalist. You should know this.
I mean,
and he does for sure. He knows it.
Yeah, Naftali Bennett is his right-wing opposition, Netanyahu's right-wing opposition, but even his left-wing opposition. We've said this on the show before, but Ehud Barak, in his 2 years after Netanyahu's earlier presidency, in those 2 years under Barak, he created more settlements than Netanyahu did in the 3 years prior. So from his left or from his right, it doesn't matter. The entire project needs to be completely reconstructed, torn down, and something needs to replace it.
And in the same way that pretending that Hamas seizing control of the Palestinian movement is what will cast Palestinians into darkness, rather than, I don't know, a plan to mass expel Palestinians and complete a genocide. It's perplexing. It's not perplexing because it's what we've seen over the last 2 years, but still, it's really unbelievable that something like this passes for journalism still to this day. 2 years into this, genocidal assault on the Gaza Strip. And I mean, I guess this kind of also brings us on to something else which I've really wanted to talk about and kind of get into, and it kind of encompasses a multitude of different things, which is, first of all, the takeover of TikTok, but also, I mean, Isaac, I don't know if you're aware, I know you are, James, because I've seen you tweet about it. Hassan got banned on Twitch for talking about rabid Zionist pigs, I think.
Beast mode.
I tweeted about it too.
He went too close. He went too hard. Twitch had to slow him down.
But the fact that you can't use the term Zionist and it purports to be a slur, I didn't see.
Well, this is interesting. I don't know. Do you know the TOS violation? So I'm friends with one of Hassan's mods who was walking me through some of this, and the TOS violation is so unique because it's basically you can't say Zionist and then an animal. This is an explicit example given in their kind of ship. So like the fact he said like Zionist hog was probably like the reason why that terms of service violation occurred and why he got banned temporarily. But he could have said like Zionist toaster and possibly like avoided a fucking TOS problem. Yeah, it's the comparison of Zionists to like an animal. It's like an explicit example.
But certainly to me, I mean, that was just like a straight up ADL campaign. And I think that kind of, I mean, we both started on TikTok really. And I mean, you know, still kind of do it to some extent. But like, you especially, James, you're still active on TikTok a lot. But
I love my app. I love my dancing app. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you love it when you love doing trends on there. If you check out what James is up to, he's always dancing to
he's throwing
whatever
cheeks.
the hot song is. Yeah,
he's
doing
throwing
the
it
fucking
back.
renegade. Like, I'm having a great
renegade.
time. Like,
I was trying to think of like what people even do on there, like what the dances are. But the app has evolved so much beyond that point. I mean, I saw one of the most popular videos recently was a Marvel film with Jeffrey Epstein and Charlie Kirk edited into it. Where have you seen it, James?
yeah, oh yeah. No, I've seen it. I've seen it a couple of times. It's insane.
Isaac, do you know what I'm talking about too?
No.
You'll enjoy it after this, and anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a scene where like Tony Stark is talking to Iron Man is talking to Captain America, and Jeffrey Epstein is Iron Man, and Charlie Kirk is Captain America, and Erica Kirk is also in the thing, but that's like what's popular on there. But what amazes me about TikTok and like censorship in general is this slow creeping shit has been happening for a while. Like people are really panicked about what TikTok is doing right now, but this has been happening. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it, James.
Yeah. I mean, like this is something that I'm trying really hard. Maybe this is just me being like an optimist in some variety, but I'm trying really hard with the new acquisition not to be like alarmist and like doomerist about everything. Because like for me, since October 7th, even before then, like well before October 7th, like even back in like 2020, 2021, like there was always suppression of content. But it was always a matter of like, what can you say and what can't you say? What tone do you say it in is really the key, I think, for a lot of their censorship stuff. And like, how are you describing what you're talking about in captions and stuff inside of your video and on the description of the video itself, right? So like, I would get stuff flagged semi-regularly. Like I'd say like once a month, twice a month, I'd probably have something get up and get flagged or, you know, whatever. I'd say post October 7th, 2023, like those flags became content strikes, right? Where it was like, okay, now like you really can't say it. But like they sold off everything to like Ellison and them, and it's like, you know, same bullshit, maybe a bit more open in a lot of ways.
Part of me thinks though that like people may take note if it's more egregious, because previously the way they censored it was like it was bad because most people just didn't give a shit or didn't even know. Like I remember making a ton of videos about like, hey, like this is weird. Like I had a video, I remember one of the most notable videos I have removed is the clip of Netanyahu where he goes, the Mufti of Jerusalem gave Hitler the idea for the Holocaust. I got that removed for Holocaust disinformation, and it's like, what? You know, the platform has had long-standing issues, but I will say, I think things like Bisan getting banned is troubling.
Well, they reversed that though.
Oh, have they? I thought they probably would. Because
well, that's the thing too. Bisan's, she's lost her account a couple of times, if I recall correctly now, and had it reinstated. So like this is an ongoing issue too. Like I think that like larger accounts like that, especially Palestinian accounts, get targeted a lot, and they have like AI moderation systems that are like, you know, just automated, I guess, more or less than AI, but like automated and like, you know, kind of systems that if you get enough flags or whatever, sometimes it'll just auto remove out of like a knee jerk, and then you have to basically prove that it's bullshit, right? I go through that like every week. I have like something that gets flagged or taken down, and I do an appeals process, and it goes up after like 20 minutes, you know.
But that's the stress for me about like trying to create content on that platform where so regularly that stuff is happening, and you can't speak to a human being. You just have to go through the AI procedure, hope it gets back up, potentially lose your ability to monetize anything, potentially lose your ability to, you know, I don't know, do anything on the platform. And it's kind of like, it's kind of just like this hysterical, really difficult way to exist as a content creator. Because like, you know, this platform has its issues. Like, but at the same time, you can talk to someone. I mean, Isaac, have you ever even had a video removed on here?
No, not for anything like I said, but like maybe for just demonetized. But nothing taken down, no.
Yeah. I guess demonetization is an issue on here as well. and like limitation of reach and stuff is an issue.
Yeah.
But like on TikTok as well, it's just like such a troubling platform. And I'm sure, did you see the video of the guy saying as well, they're going to add Zionist to the category of words you can and cannot say on TikTok, that Zionist will not be allowed.
Did they say that?
Yeah. A new like significant figure within TikTok was talking at one of those, I don't know why they keep hosting them, one of those like pro-Israel conferences that are all filmed and streamed and everyone watches, like the ones where you had Hillary Clinton talking about how the kids are on TikTok being radicalized, and the lady who we spoke about, Isaac, Sarah Hurwitz, where she was like, I'm talking to them through a wall of dead kids.
She's great. She knows what she's doing. She's awesome.
An expert at her craft, really.
And I think also something that really sticks in my mind is people probably need to make this realization that these social media platforms were never that democratic at the best of times.
No.
That right-wing content is way more appealing because algorithmically it's so simple. Like trying to make an explainer about, this is what Hamas is versus Hamas are evil jihadi radicals.
Yeah.
One of those is short and simple, and a lot of people will lap it up,
Yeah, it's hard to... We spoke about this last episode, but we have like a friend who makes YouTube. He got clapped temporarily because he was showing polling data on the opinions that Americans held about Hamas, and his video got taken down. His account actually got banned, and he was appealing it, but his appeals would get denied until he made a big enough stink on Twitter and he got his thing back. But it was just really strange because all he did was talk about polling data surrounding Hamas, and they clapped him for glorifying or supporting a violent criminal organization. But it's just insane. I made this point earlier, but people praise the IDF on YouTube all of the time.
Oh, yeah.
They don't get clapped. And the IDF is categorically a violent and criminal organization that commit copious war crimes. It's just double standards is disgusting, but what are you going to do?
The head of their state is an internationally wanted war criminal.
Yeah.
You know? Like someone who couldn't go to Davos because Switzerland might have enforced his arrest warrant. You know?
Yeah.
I won't lie though, the idea of the Swiss doing anything's crazy to me. Them like actually enforcing that's nuts. Like there's just no way. They were laundering Nazi gold in the 40s.
Yeah.
Like they're fine. Like
they're staying true to form.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Nazification and Israel, James, I was very interested in what you had to say about like some people, especially libs, have really been pushing back on this notion that we should offer any comparison between ICE and Israel, and the notion that the US is becoming like Israel. And you were kind of saying, I don't know, I want to hear what you were talking about, because earlier it was very interesting, I must say.
Yeah. So like to give a little bit of background, right? Minneapolis is a very interesting place for a lot of this to start, or not really start, but intensify in the way that it is. Minneapolis has been the site of like social struggle and like stratification for, God knows how long. It's where like the BLM uprisings really kind of like took root out, in 2020, at least. Obviously there were, before like Minneapolis, there were obviously other like kind of like proto uprising style things. But Minneapolis is very interesting because when you look at the long scale history, there's a long history of like ethnic cleansing, colonization, expulsion of indigenous communities, et cetera, moving even before like line 3, line 5, like kind of like the pipeline fights that had like water defenders and water protectors and land defenders out there trying their best to stop like these massive oil projects. Like a lot of people don't know this, but like the largest state execution period in U.S. history occurred under the Lincoln administration in Minneapolis after the U.S. Lakota War. This was a war that was started, I guess, like moving into the official start period was like a Lakota hunting party came across a chicken coop that was like owned by kind of settlers in this area. A fight ensued when these Lakota people tried to take some of the eggs and like raid the chicken coop functionally. And that fight ended in like a couple of settlers dying, including I think like a well-known like pastor or something in this community. Settlers began taking up arms against Lakota populations in the area. Tribal leaders kind of said, we're going to continue our raids. And it led to U.S. military intervention that led to the U.S. Lakota War, right? I think it's like 1836. And the thing that's, obviously it didn't start there, right? Similar to like what you see in Palestine today, right? Like there were precursor moves, right? Like displacement of indigenous populations, the elimination of indigenous food sources, which is like a massive part of U.S. Westward expansionary policy. In like this kind of agreement between the U.S. government and these tribes that they would be able to supply some of their basic needs if they would not be warring with the United States, right? Obviously, the U.S. didn't uphold these treaty expectations. Like oftentimes there was a lot of like grifting and corruption, et cetera, theft in these these transactions. So tribes didn't get what they were promised. None of this stuff was really equitable or fair in any meaningful way. And it's essentially part of like what I would describe, and I think some other scholars and a lot of indigenous community members that I've spoken to have described as like intentional starvation policy, right? And you have like this long campaign of starvation that brings a community to the brink and either forces them to move or forces them into some sort of escalatory measure that the U.S. can use as justification to send in the cavalry. And in this instance, they did. They ended up kind of going in. The U.S. military did what they do. They cracked skulls. They just destroyed communities. And you end up with, at the end of this, the execution of numerous Lakota and Dakota peoples, as well as one other guy, I think it's a white guy got hung with them. The executions were initially supposed to be much larger than they were. They got cut down in number, still being the largest state execution. And then like over 1,000 Lakota and Dakota peoples were forced into what's called Fort Snelling, or this concentration camp that was established near Fort Snelling. And it was like a really early example of like a concentration camp functionally in kind of colonial expansionary history, right? You see mostly in this camp are like women, children, and elderly members due to the fact they were housed in this camp over the winter. And they had really poor conditions within the camp. A lot of these people ended up dying of exposure to the elements of disease, things like this, right? And after all this transpired, they were shipped out. Lakota and Dakota people were like forcibly expelled, ethnically cleansed from Minnesota. What we know today is Minnesota. Obviously, the borders are different at this period. And basically, in the same time, you start seeing, bounties go up for like scalps of like Lakota and Dakota peoples, right? Like there's a very, very explicit ethnic cleansing campaign kicking them out of the territory. That's why a lot of Lakota and Dakota people actually ended up shifting up to Canada as well, so-called Canada today. And as well as like elsewhere throughout like this kind of territory, right? And so like there's a really interesting, in my opinion, like I hear the Israelification discussion, and I keep going back to Snelling, right? I keep going back to the U.S. Lakota Wars and like this whole dynamic, and thinking that like ICE, DHS, this kind of policy making, this occupational strategy we're seeing actually isn't like an external force, really like kind of shifting how U.S. policing and law enforcement agencies are operating so much as like a long-standing development, right? There's a book called The Red Deal, which I think is like a really interesting read on like indigenous climate justice kind of proposals, and it discusses in a lot of ways that like the Indian Wars, when they came to like an end, quote unquote, really like when you saw the culmination of U.S. expansion west. And obviously the genocide hasn't stopped. The genocides against indigenous peoples hasn't stopped in the United States, but like the kind of like the war making and the expansion and in California, you get like what could be described as like in like a U.S. imperial models and U.S. like war making as being like an exporting of the Indian Wars, right? The Red Deal kind of makes there's written in it this idea that like the Indian Wars never ended; they just were exported to like Afghanistan, et cetera, and that influences a lot how like U.S. war making strategy and tactics imply, right? When the U.S. goes into these places, it goes into like Afghanistan, Iraq, other areas. It is being done with like an explicit like annihilationist goal, right? Like we're terrorizing, destroying, total war. And a lot of that policy has been developed over like decades, if centuries, really, of like U.S. colonial expansion.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you'd hope that people would have appreciated it. The concept of settler colonialism is that like it's to compare like somewhat disparate projects that have this same logic of eliminating the indigenous people at their very core. That's what the U.S. is,
I was going to say it's really interesting because like I'm just looking at our notes for this episode, and we had one topic titled "The Nazification of the U.S." and then we had another the Israelification of ICE. And it's like, it's really interesting to just be able to see that thread be drawn from American settler colonialism, which inspired a lot of what the Nazis did, to Zionism, where you could see that underlying structure form behind them all. It is. I don't know if you guys have seen any of this, and forgive me if I'm straying too far from the current topic, but did you see the like open Nazi rhetoric and slogans on the U.S. Department of Labor's Twitter or their things that they were saying? Like the one homeland, one people, one heritage, which is seemingly
like remember
an obvious play.
your history or something.
Yeah, seemingly a very obvious play on the Nazi slogan, the one people, one realm, one leader.
Well, also, the Department of Labor keeps posting fucking images from like paintings from the era of westward expansion.
Yeah,
Like,
with Nazi slogans on it.
Yes, Nazi slogans, specifically like, and from the 60s, like church picnics and stuff, like exclusively white people at them. And the specific image, of the angel pointing forwards, I think it is, as in like, that is it's synonymous with westward expansion. They've been posting that because, I don't think it really is straying from the topic, and we had that written down. But like the point that you're making, and the point that has been made by so many people on this topic, is actually when it comes to America, settler colonialism and the elimination of the indigenous people impressed Hitler for a reason, because America did a pretty successful job about at eliminating the indigenous people, removing them, to the dismay of pretty much no one, and to a point now where it's almost entirely forgotten and celebrated.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the westward expansion in the States, and then you look at, say, Lebensraum with the Nazis, and then you look at the Judaization of the Galilee with the Zionists. These are very similar practices.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like, as well, how immigration policy is headed, it's just like straight towards this. It's straight back to this very revolting, like, white nationalism. There's a reason that Trump is calling Somalis low IQ at Davos,
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw the post that the DHS put up on Twitter with the caption says "Remigration now," and then they posted another Twitter picture saying they're basically calling for 100 million deportations, which is actually crazy because according to Pew Research Center, there's only 14 million undocumented migrants. So where are you making the rest of those deportations up? Are you just going to racially profile people?
Well,
that's what they
racially
do in Philly.
profile 86 million people?
Yeah. I think where this comparison is interesting to me, or where this discussion I actually find some interest and significance in, is actually mostly the transmissibility of Israel's techniques of surveillance and suppression of a huge surplus population that is restive, that is against its project of settler colonialism. There's the Israeli, is it called, one second, let me just check the name, Paragon, I think it's called. Yeah, the tool built by the Israeli tech company Paragon lets people take control of phones or remotely hack into them. Like, that's horrifying, right? That is just being given to these sort of white nationalists who are saying, oh yeah, we're using it to crack down on these evil immigrants who, like the story of Lake and Riley that Trump has focused on so much. Like, that's who we're cracking down on. When in reality, they're using it to surveil people,
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that since 9/11, especially, even before, right? This like creeping U.S. surveillance state, like.
Yes, definitely. And I'd say in that context as well, of like the Israeli tech, it's really interesting because most people care about the story of Jeffrey Epstein in Israel in the context of, oh, was he or wasn't he a Mossad agent? But Dropsite's reporting on it, which has been really good, wasn't really focused on that. It was more like, hey, Jeffrey Epstein kept brokering security deals with Israel's most successful and decorated soldier at the time, Ehud Barak. And some of that was just selling technologies to like the Ivory Coast to suppress dissent. And that technology was developed during the first and second Intifada, right? Huge non-violent protest that paralyzed a settler colonial state, which is now being tested over there and used and developed to an even bigger point here because there are just so many more Americans, right?
Yeah. Technology, also training. Like the ADL actually facilitates a lot of these privately funded trips where U.S. officials, including ICE, just go over to Israel for training so they could, I guess, learn how to better violate human rights. But
yeah, deadly exchange. Yeah, I mean, you see that too outside of even federal law enforcement agencies. Like Atlanta is a really good example. They built like a kind of a CCTV surveillance network that was modeled off of Israeli surveillance operations in Jerusalem, right? Like a lot of like, that tech does get imported. Everything from the surveillance networks they're using all the way down to some of the like skunk spray and like different like chemical compounds they're using on protesters. Like, it's horrific.
Yeah, I think that's really where the comparison to Israel lies. Actually, also sometimes in the posting as well. I do find since October the 7th, the US government has started posting a lot more like Israel and Israel's like network and nexus of unusual accounts. And actually,
there's a lot more.
Yeah, Nick
A lot more
Shirley is
similarities.
Nick Shirley as well, someone who just seems to be like out for sale to any authoritarian government who wants him to go do something. Seacot, Gaza, then, Minnesota. And it's crazy that it was sparked by that as well, the fraud shit.
Yeah. It's a Reddit-occupied government. It's awful.
Well, I think that's a bit unfair. I think it might be an X-occupied government. We can't discount
maybe.
X, the everything app, because seemingly, if you just start talking about how black people from Somalia are stealing everything from you, people just lap that shit up, And I mean, I'm sure you saw or both saw the video of Ilhan Omar just being fucking attacked.
Yeah, I saw her almost throw hands too. That was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
that was unreal.
cool.
That was dope.
That was kind of sick. Yeah, good for her.
That was cool as fuck. There are plenty more similarities between ICE and Israel too. Like there's the labeling people terrorists after killing them, which is the Israeli playbook. There's the suspicious deaths in ICE custody, which happens to Palestinians all the time. The arrests, the arbitrary arrests without due process. Like Palestinians, specifically, especially in the occupied territories, are arrested and they are like subjected to these military courts with a 99% conviction rating. So I mean, these are practices that have been honed for decades by the Israelis, and now they're, I guess, coming home to roost, which is not the first time, right? Like this, we talk about imperial boomerang stuff all the time on this podcast, but there's a really good book. It's by Julian Go, and it's called Policing Empire, where he lays out concrete examples of the imperial boomerang at work. He talks about water cure torture, which is like a precursor to waterboarding, where the victim experiences the sensation of drowning, and how it was used against Filipino insurgents all the way back during the American colonization of the Philippines. This exact tactic actually ended up coming home and being used primarily against America's domestic black population. So in like Chicago and Kansas, Missouri and Mississippi. That's just one of the many examples. He also talks about how like the London Metropolitan Police in the 19th century was influenced heavily by colonial practices in Ireland. He talks about how SWAT was heavily influenced by American counterinsurgency in Vietnam and other imperial wars. And all of these horrific tactics that happen abroad end up coming back, and they target the most vulnerable domestically. They'll target, in the case of the water torture, the black communities of these impoverished areas. In London, those methods were deployed primarily against working class people in working class neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that at all, especially with the UK, The UK gets off with, I feel like now, because the US has reached such a point of ascendancy over the UK, people will talk about the UK's historical crimes, and they'll speak back to and hark back to the days where England really had its, the sun never sets on the British Empire style thing. But even when we were talking about Iran, as we mentioned, it was Churchill who was lobbying before the Americans, before Eisenhower was in power, to get the coup in Iran, and it kept being rejected until Eisenhower and his sort of Red Scare maniacs got in and were like, yeah, no, let's do this right now. Obviously the US wasn't good and moral before that, but It's just interesting how today it almost feels easy to kind of dismiss the UK as this comical state entirely benevolent to America. But we've certainly been up to like our own ills and horrors over the last few decades. I mean, participated in Iraq, Afghanistan, everything. We're more than happy to do it. I mean,
you guys are the OGs.
Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah. We definitely are. I mean, it's the same. I think it's this really interesting thing of, I mean, you know, when we saw, I mean, we talked about it last time, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Carney talk about like how the rules-based order never existed. It's like, yes, of course it didn't. And
yeah, it's like no shit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't need Carney to tell us, and I don't think that's a big moment until you withdraw from this like mirage and stuff. Who gives a shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where you are, James, have you had much experience with like ICE activity or?
Yeah. I mean, like, so people, I think, don't always know this, but like ICE is operating in like tons of cities all over the country. Like Minneapolis, Los Angeles are like notable flare-ups, right? Where you have like DHS and ICE officers doing these larger scale convoy-esque raids, like treating these areas like war zones functionally. But Philadelphia has an ICE office in the city. It's been an ongoing problem because what ICE does here is like very targeted kind of raids. With like their primary tactic is going to local courthouses, waiting for people to go through their immigration proceedings, and then because like regardless of outcome of the proceedings, they basically just pick them like and abduct them like as soon as they leave the courthouse. So what these ICE agents are able to do is go into the courthouse, check the dockets. What I think they do is look at the names and see like, okay, who sounds or looks foreign, like is genuinely, and then they just wait. You'll get teams of ICE guys, like 2 to 6 guys that are kind of sitting here. They'll pull a car up, basically, interestingly enough, in the sheriff's spot, and they'll pull a car up nearby. They'll pull a guy or woman, whoever, out, throw him in the truck, and you go. And the game at that point is like getting the information of the abductee to like an attorney, right?
Yeah.
Because like Philly actually, or Pennsylvania, has like a massive detention facility near Philadelphia called Moshannon. And if you don't basically get the information about these guys to an attorney within like 24 hours and get an injunction like kind of put through, they're basically just tossed over there. And then God knows how long it is until they're out, if they even get out, right? But ICE has been, like, they've abducted over 100 people, I think, last year in Philly. Like, I mean, it's a real problem in the city.
I think it's also probably something which I'm sure you have been repulsed by, is the way in which like people blame fucking pro-Palestine people and people who weren't like screaming that you have to just vote Kamala because you have to. And we're like, actually, no, we need to see meaningful change. Because, I mean, it was really rolled out under Obama, right? It was called the Secure Communities Act. This thing where local law enforcement had to collaborate with and share any details of arrested people with ICE, so ICE could check whether they were undocumented or not and then go and get them. And Obama carried out so many deportations. And the only reason that, I didn't know this, I actually learned it from Daniel Denver in The Dig. The only reason that Trump's first administration couldn't carry out so many deportations is because the fucking opposition to Obama had developed so many techniques to prevent it and networks. And now what Trump has kind of seemingly understood to do, and I guess as someone who's a community organizer, you might have experienced this, is to target those networks, right, that work to prevent deportation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is really critical in contextualizing ICE and establishment support for it by noting that it is by and large a bipartisan affair that's also driven in no small part by private interests who are profiting massively, particularly in detention facilities. And, you know, a lot of the massive expansion that we saw in ICE was under the Obama administration, but like successive administrations, Republican or Democrat, regardless of congressional majority, have been passing increased operational expansions for ICE, have been, budget increases, things like this, like that we've gotten here because both parties really don't mind ICE as like, especially like ERO, which is like the kind of like the on the ground ICE guys you're seeing, like basically coming in and kicking doors in. Like for both parties, they want to be seen as like tough on immigration because it's like they both view it as a good issue for them if they're able to be good on it. And what tough on immigration means is like ripping communities apart, like basically just ripping families apart, going into businesses, tearing people out of their homes. Like it's fucking terrifying, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Trump has been going after like everybody basically who he can, and a lot of this stuff, you know, is not just relegated to ICE, like Palestine solidarity networks and stuff. We're getting hit by him and Zionist like organizations on the ground here. It's not surprising that a lot of the people that I know in like both networks are pretty much in both networks, right?
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people who do Palestine work who also do immigrant solidarity and immigrant justice work. Like there's like immediate overlap. So a lot of people go back and forth between like whatever's needed the most in the moment, right?
Yeah. That's where oh, sorry, Isaac.
Oh, I was just going to say quickly, you mentioned that the interests of for-profit and private interests and play a big role in what's going on here. I don't know if you have been keeping up to date with the news coming out of Chrome, which is the Florida-based for-profit, privately owned detention facility, more like a human rights abuse bastion. But Amnesty International put out a piece on it, and it looked horrifying. I read a bit of it, and I mean, like, people are subjected to overcrowding. They're laying next to these toilets that are overflooding, going onto their sleeping material. Horrible, unsanitary conditions, prolonged arbitrary solitary confinement, limited access to showers, medical supplies, medical treatment, food, water.
Yeah.
And this is just happening right in Florida, alongside with the other one, the Alcatraz, or whatever the fuck. And you see these, mega Trump admin just bragging about it, like boasting about how their approach to dealing with immigration is the cruelest, and that just makes them cooler, and that's it's just who can do the most inhumane shit.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy too is it's not even relegated just to immigration detention facilities either. Like, this is the reality of the U.S. carceral system, right? In Philly, there's a lot of organizing around trying to get medical support and the freedom of Mumia Abu-Jamal, who's like a Black liberation organizer here. Phenomenal guy. I suggest reading his books and things like that. He's been in prison for a long time over allegedly killing a police officer, which none of the evidence actually points to it being him. Even the firearm he possessed has a different caliber than the rounds that were there. We do a whole episode on that, about how like Mumia seemingly went to jail for what very much seems to be like the cops killing their own, and then pinning it on Mumia, which is a whole thing. But like the same medical neglect that you're seeing in these detention facilities, that you're seeing in like occupied Palestine, that you're seeing in these Israeli colonial dungeons, is the same. Like, Mumia right now is losing his vision because he's not been able to get adequate support for his medical needs, right? He's actively losing like critical senses over just like literally the Pennsylvania carceral system just being like, how we don't have the expertise, or like we'd have no responsibility for this, or what have you, right?
Wow.
And that's a particularly egregious example, right? Because like Mumia, the police view him as like a cop killer, so they treat him like shit.
Yeah.
Right. But like, it's just a standard in a lot of these detention facilities, and it goes beyond private facilities too, right? Like, a lot of like private companies are making insane amounts of money on these like quote unquote public these public jails and prisons, because these facilities require a lot of private contractors to fulfill basic needs, whether it's like commissary or food, like materials for guards and things like this, like bed linen, sheets. Like, there's a really good book called Immigration Inc. that like goes through like case studies in the East Coast of like these different detention facilities, and like talks about how like these companies are making fucking tons of money, even on the phone call systems that are allowing prisoners to talk to their loved ones and family. The amount of money that is made off of that alone is insane.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. Wow.
Yeah,
and
it's
not to
every
mention
step
like
of the chain.
The labor as well. Like, you just get cheap labor which is insane. It is slavery. It's literally slavery.
It is literal slavery.
The 13th Amendment. It says it is.
It's amazing that like one of the most highest rated films in I guess you would say American history is like a film about the brutality of the prison system. Shawshank Redemption. A film about the neglect, the way in which prisoners are exploited, the way in which like singular people profit off it massively. And yet to this day, people are still like, and I know films don't ultimately change things, and people might actually make the critique that you go and watch a film about how bad that is, you think, my God, that's bad, and that's kind of the end point of it. But the fact that a film like that is so popular, and yet so many people just kind of disengage from this stuff, show a complete lack of interest when this is just ramping up, right? Like, and in somewhere like Israel, people develop this obsession with hostages internationally and grab it on and on and on about it. And they just totally ignore the fact that, like, first of all, Hamas does not possess the capability to, like, look after prisoners during a fucking siege, and clearly, actually, from most accounts from prisoners, offered something that was better than what Palestinians are subjected to. And anyone who, people will see this and they'll say, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying something like that. But just bother looking into what Israel is doing. And, like, you're hearing similar stories coming out of ICE detention facilities. I mean, the ACLU had 2 articles recently talking about it. And if we want to talk about the Israelification of the United States of ICErael, there seems to be a bit of an obsession with sexually sadistic torture, right? I don't know if any of you saw this. There was, like, reports of genitals being beaten and squeezed, the same shit that Israelis do, but in part that, and I think, I guess why, the point you're making earlier is to understand this within the colonial nexus rather than pretending that the US has all of a sudden become like Israel. A lot of why Israelis do that, in my opinion, pertains to the way in which, and particularly since October the 7th, there's been a major ramp up of the Palestinian as, this specter of a sexually sadistic terrorist whose only desires are to kill and sexually abuse Israelis, and that they're in a death rapist cult. And look at how Trump speaks about immigrants, right?
Yeah. Or, like, for years, like, how Americans spoke, or, like, how racist white supremacists talk about black communities, like black men in particular. There's a lot of overlap in how black men are spoken about white supremacists here.
Always hyper-focus on the supposed, like, hypersexuality of the outgroup.
Lynching, always not generally culminated with castration, and normally relied on a claim that the black man had attacked a good white woman. And I think that, like, I think that kind of disconnecting America from its own history is so bad, like, in the context of refusing to reckon with the fact that America was always this way, whether it was indigenous people, black communities, like, this real criminalization of immigrants and stuff is not something new, right? Like, at all. No. I guess the point, it's hard to really trace a beginning point, but, you see, like, Japanese people treated in this way, and Trump invoking all of this, like legislation related to war and such. It plays, like, a big role in it,
Yeah, that's also another similarity. It's the using these issues of supposed security to justify this brutality. That's something the Israelis have been doing forever.
There's a really good book. You've probably read it. Both of you have probably read it. It's Decolonizing Israel, Liberating Palestine, that talks a lot about, like, Israeli settler colonialism and like, how the Israelis, like, fit into a settler colonial framework, and, like, analyzing it by, like, the stages of progression of, like, settler colonial activity. And there's a lot of, like, the securitization element is so interesting in colonial constructs because it's inherently just a mechanism for advancing settler interests, right? Where it's like, it's how the colony rationalizes resistance efforts by indigenous populations against their own annihilation, right? This idea that, like, these innocent settlers just want to farm on their own land. Like, why are these people being so mad? Like, why are they attacking them? Like, whatever. It's a way to, like, really cleverly decontextualize the history of the colonization and the reality of a colonial hierarchy to justify, like, mass violence and militarism, right? And you see that in the U.S. context, in the American context, Canadian context, like South Africa, like you see this a lot, like this idea of, like, oh, well, these unruly natives, for whatever fucking reason, we don't know, are just, like, attacking us. And so, like, we have to, like, really kill as many of them as possible. It's horrific. Like, but it's you see it every single time. Like,
for sure. South Africa is a really good example too. You brought it up. They would point to the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya. They would point to Congo post-independence and conjure up these images. Yeah, right? So...
Yeah, I also think in the sort of, in the context of all of this stuff, it's why it's so hard to take right-wing anxieties seriously, because they produced it. So I think Amira Hass wrote about this. She was like, or I don't know who wrote about it. I'd try and remember, but I'm not sure. It was basically like, all of the anxieties that Israelis feel are products of doing colonialism. Palestinian alleged terror is a result of actually Israel's unwillingness for decades to deal with the PLO, like in the context of what even most like American supporters of Palestine talk about. The PLO were actually like more liberal, especially the elite of it, like and most people actually now would be like, no, we don't actually want what the PLO wanted. But the PLO, that at least like Yasser Arafat and his ilk,
really,
they were ready to negotiate with Israel in the 70s. They were ready to do it in the 80s. They formally denounced armed struggle and all of this stuff. And Israel's unwillingness to do anything with that, and their increasingly strong, I mean, always Israel massacred protesters and massacred massacred civilians, but Israel was always never willing to change. And because they continue to take Palestinian land away, they are, of course, going to provoke people. There is no context in which human beings have lain down and let their land go away for free, right? That's not a thing. And always the settler produces these anxieties. And in the context of immigration, right, where do these people think immigrants come from? Like, whether that is bombing and destabilizing Iraq, the way in which the continuing sanctions against Iran destabilize and produce a situation where there are both political and economic migrants to Europe and stuff, Syria, all of these places where we played roles in destabilizing the countries in pursuit of our empire. We then complain about people coming, which is then, and also the unequal way we set up the world.
It also influences how our colonial model works as well. Hawaii is a really good example, right? When the U.S. came in and U.S. farm owners and ranchers basically launched a coup against the sovereign leadership of Hawaii. I remember people think of Hawaii as like a state today or like a former territory, but it was like a sovereign nation with embassies, consulates all over the world, internationally recognized sovereign state that was overthrown for the sake of the interest of the sugar plantations, essentially. It was interesting, when that coup occurred, when that overthrow occurred, really, it's not even really a coup. It wasn't internal, it was an external overthrow by white settlers. Occurred, the U.S. government, especially Southerners, Southern kind of segregationists, questioned whether or not we could even annex Hawaii as a territory because there were so many Asian people in Hawaii, right? It impacts even how we annex territory, how we think of different populations. Puerto Rico being another good example, right? There's no real voting power for Puerto Ricans in national politics, in no small part because of racial anxieties around what that would constitute, right?
For sure. There's also the I was just going to say real quick, a lot of the migrants who come to America come from Central America. And I don't think a lot of people even know what the American leadership did in Central America, the propping up of death squads, the
Operation Condor.
Almazote. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Almazote massacre happened in El Salvador. It was 800 civilians killed in a village, done by U.S.-backed forces.
Yeah.
And you never hear these talks. You never hear any of this. You don't ask the questions, why are people coming to this country, right? It's what happened in their country.
Yeah.
How many people fled ISIS, which the emergence of undeniably has a big relationship with what the West did,
U.S. in particular, yeah.
Someone, I also read in a piece about what they referred to as the Jihadi University, which was just a huge prison camp where the vast majority of leaders of Nusra Front and stuff, including al-Shara Jalani, was literally in this prison. The Salafists basically took over the prison, basically managed a mini, it's obviously not a state, but you're learning how to manage a sizable amount of people and control them. What do you think's going to happen? You destabilized Iraq. I like Trump's quote where he was like, do you see what happened in Iraq? They fired everyone and they became ISIS. And, he speaks to something kind of true there where all of this destabilization produces all these huge amounts of immigrants who end up flowing over to Western countries. But also, I would actually say, beyond that, it's really hard to discount the way in which a large part of it pertains as well to economic opportunities. most people come and hope for a better life, unfortunately, because their countries are effectively set up to be low-wage spaces where you do very hard labor, and that's kind of it, unless you belong to a specific either colonial elite or you have a family who are, rich anyway. You're just going to be stuck in this perpetual situation of where do you go? The place where you're going to get paid more and can send money back to your family. The place where you speak a language which you may have learnt from just watching and consuming media. It's easier than anywhere else, and it's higher wage. And, you see like so many people who come to Britain is just because they have familial connections. They have the ability to speak the language because Britain is a place where you might actually be able to move beyond the class in which you were born, Yeah. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen for people who actually live here all that much. But, for someone who comes from a country that's, struggling, there is always that chance. Although I was saying that a lot of immigrants do end up in situations where they work for a very low pay, but obviously still the low pay is better than what you can attain in somewhere, say, like India or Iraq or Iran or so many different places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we end up just securitizing them, and they're used as a political prop for nothing more than just right-wingers coming to power and blaming them for economic issues that pertain to capital rather than people moving around. So I guess with all of what we've spoken about, kind of where do you think things are heading specifically inside America and with ICE from now? Do you think that it's going to be more Minneapolis-style stuff, more Minnesota-style stuff? Or do you think that they've kind of had a failure and actually galvanized sort of protest against them and may move towards more tacit stuff that's more appealing and less repugnant to people?
I mean, I think the general model is going to stay to a Philly model, right? Which is small-scale raids, picking people up, abducting them from targeted areas that aren't going to cause massive amounts of unrest. Minneapolis, I think, probably wasn't what was actually intended for DHS. I think they've put themselves in a bit of a quagmire internally, and I don't see them being able to expand operations into multiple cities on the exact same scale this way, with the amount of recruitment they're actively getting and the amount of resources required just for Minneapolis operations. They could surprise me. I mean, fuck, neither party gives a shit. So realistically, they could easily find the funding for it. They could probably find the manpower for it. But to me, I see DHS probably just operating as trying to abduct as many people as humanly possible without having to resort to large scale military-esque occupational strategy, right? Because that's where they start fumbling. That's where they start failing. Then you get cities actually starting to bring up organized, what are essentially counterinsurgency activity, right? And that's, to me, that's not something they probably want. Now, to that end, it's the U.S. government. I mean, when have they ever decided to tone it down? Yeah. When shit hits the fan. A lot of these guys also are of the mentality that what you need is a hammer, right? And you got to keep hammering it as hard as you possibly fucking can because people will stop if you hammer hard enough. It's what we see everywhere where this stuff happens. Law enforcement's like this all the time. You'll get the National Guards member handing out fucking donuts in the morning, and then they'll be tear gassing you when curfew hits at 9, right?
Yeah,
that's what they do. That's what it was in 2020. And this is what I actually think is really interesting is people have really memory hold the BLM uprisings in the U.S. I remember when I was out on the ground in a couple of different states, because I was alternating between Kentucky and Indiana at the time, as far as where I was protesting, and you had police officers during the day. Great. They're taking a knee with you. They're they're whatever. Yeah. We hear you, we see you, you're free to whatever. And then when curfew hit, man, they were tear gassing us, hitting us with rubber bullets, shit like that. They didn't give a shit. And that's what you're seeing here, right? And I think that's what we'll continue to see from law enforcement because they see because they're hammers. They see everything as nails, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they're trying to provoke the response that they got in Minnesota was not really what they wanted, and that they wanted a situation more akin to BLM where there was property destruction, and that actually looking back on that, you saw a lot of liberals who were I really can't support this kind of protesting, and that makes me uncomfortable, and maybe Trump is right in what he's doing to crack down on this and such. Do you see that happening, or do you think that's what they'd want?
I mean, I don't see that happening a lot, and I think it's harder for ICE to make those sorts of accusations and arguments, right? Minneapolis is a good example. The guys I've talked to that are on the ground doing a lot of like ICE support stuff have noted that like not only are the networks a lot more organized than they were in 2020, but a lot of that like kind of like wanton property destruction, which like I'm not going to delegitimize, like fuck it, people, like cops are killing people, fucking burn shit, but like like sure, but I think that like you're not seeing that as much. And it's also a lot harder for like an agency like ICE to make the same sort of counterinsurgency efforts that like a local police force does, right? Because people know their local sheriff. Mm-hmm. People know the local beat officer, the guy on their street, the guy who's sitting there. Some people chat with him, whatever. Like, like liberals fucking love pigs. So like, there's it's different there, right? ICE, they're coming in looking like fucking military.
Yeah.
And they're killing community members in broad daylight, right? It's like that's different.
Face covered. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not your friendly local civil affairs officer. It's like, oh, these guys are like Hitler. Like they're rolling into your community. And like Americans is fucking just absolutely like bought in we are to as much fascist violence as humanly possible. Like it really does, I think, make a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't be mobilized by similar activities in local law enforcement actively mobilized in this. I saw a video of like a guy, it's like an old guy. Videos like this always make me kind of sad because like you see like videos of like elders who are kind of about this guy. He was like, I'm 70 years old. I'm fucking mad. You know what I mean? He's like, he's walking around yelling at these ICE officers, walks into a cloud of tear gas, just disappears. Right. And I'm looking at guys like that. Like random people, like I'm watching just people who are just absolutely just normal, like I say normal, like you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like these typical like Joe Schmo guys running out and like telling ICE officers to themselves, like that to me, like that's different. Like that's different.
Did you see the footage they put out of Alex Pretti, and they're trying to, I guess, post hoc delegitimize him and say, oh look, he's violent, he fucking kicked the tail light.
He looks cooler.
I know.
Yeah.
He looks badass in that.
He looks cooler. He genuinely does not look like. I saw a lot of people trying to claim that was AI. I didn't.
I'm not sure about that. I could see it. I mean, my whole thing is like, let's assume it's true. Okay, like you shouldn't execute a guy for kicking a tail light in. You know what I mean? Like that's my thing.
I think he has every right to do that.
Yeah, especially because pretty good kick as well, first of all.
Pretty good kick, yeah.
Dude, and it took him 2 tries and the thing fucking popped out.
Dude, that's some power. Yeah.
Some people were like, "Oh, that can't be real. Like imagine a kick causing that damage." And it's like, I don't know, I've never kicked a tail light. Like you
can break a tail light with a kick. I'm not gonna lie, you can do it. Like it's
He's talking from experience right now.
Yeah, you can break a tail light with a kick. Like I had a fun time in college. You know, like you can knock a tail light in. Like
it just kind of feels like to me as well, if they were going to make an AI video, I feel like they would have chosen to make one where he'd run up to officers and tried to shoot them first somehow.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
true. Because it feels like, I think it's pretty hard to pull it back from the brink of that you killed a guy who wasn't a veteran but worked with veterans in ICUs, guy, right? Yeah. Was like just an all-round, seemingly a pretty decent guy, like a real person who was like really trying to sell him as bad, evil guy. Whereas I think with Renee Good, you could sell her, and I think that's what the Trump administration went for. Of first of all, she was in a car. Obviously, they're like they keep calling them. Have you seen that shit of like they go, the 4,000-pound weapon has been weaponized against our brain ICE agents.
It's like, you mean the CRV? Like, what are we talking about? Like
the Honda Pilot.
Yeah, and
come on, dude.
I'm driving my Civic around like I'm an insurgent. You know what I mean?
And with her, I think there's a notable part that she's a woman, and if you looked at Trump's rhetoric, he was like, her wife was screaming loud, you don't scream that loud normally. It's not possible. Yeah. And I think that, like, with that, there's an appeal to a right-wing base of bad, evil, woke, lib woman
lesbian
doing this. Lesbian. Like, that was what Fox News was fucking hopping on.
Right. They said the Fox News was talking about how she had, like, pronouns in her Instagram bio or something.
Yeah.
Come the fuck on right now, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's harder with Alex because, like, neither of them, it's easy. Like, I mean, realistically,
you got to do some acrobats.
you got to do some you got to be like doing some Olympic level acrobatics here.
Yeah.
But like to even justify daylight execution, that's insane.
Yeah.
But like with Alex too, it's been crazy because like you're seeing people who are like, oh well, he brought a gun, and it's like, yeah, like he legally was concealed carrying, like, you know, and like I mean, obviously, like I'm not. Yeah, they disarmed him too, and like I'm not some guy who's like, oh, look at the contradictions in rhetoric and actions of the Republican Party because they're fascists. Like,
they
don't give a shit. Like, they don't care about anything. Like, you know, it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, oh, I got you. It's like they don't give a fuck. Like they're killing people, bro. They don't give a fuck about contradictions in rhetoric. Like, it's like I feel like I'm like a debate class or some shit sometimes, and I'm like watching liberal rhetoric, but I'm like, you know, it's a staunch Second Amendment supporter. Like I really don't see a justification for even like escalating violently in that regard to a person who is just legally concealed carrying and very clearly not brandishing or drawing the weapon. And I know that from experience, right? I've had a weapon like semi-drawn on me in Philadelphia. Like I was at a Palestine protest and a Zionist was trying to walk through the crowd, and I basically pushed him out of. I pushed him away from the speakers. I was doing like marshalling, whatever, and I followed him out of the crowd. He turned around and he was like, "Stop fucking following me," and I was like, "No." And it's like, fuck him. And then he half drew his sidearm out. He like reached down, half drew it out of the holster, as like a warning to me. You know, I put my hands up. I'm like, hey man, let's not do that. Like that's a bad idea. Right now I'm talking to him. Like I grew up around firearms. They don't really fucking scare me. So it's like whatever. But like I had a cop come up to me afterwards because I civil affairs came up, which is like our like intelligence unit basically. And he was like, what happened? And I was like, oh, well, like a guy like attempted to possibly draw his firearm on me. Do you feel like you should go and check him out? And they're like, well, you didn't withdraw it fully from the holster, so there's nothing we can do. And I was like, all right, bro, like, fuck you. Like you suck.
Yeah. If
I would have done that,
if you'd done that pro-Israel protest, you would have been in an ICE detention center forever.
I'd be dead.
You'd either be dead or you'd be like you'd be the first one having the Palantir chip implanted in your brain.
No, literally. And it's like that, and that's how I know that all this is bullshit. You got all these like 2A freaks, these like Second Amendment guys who are like, no, like I should be able to carry wherever I want, like inside of the like I should be able to carry in like the maternity ward of my you know, like. Whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, he had a gun at a protest, so like, you know, you should have thought about that. And it's like, dude, what are you fucking talking about?
I think also like in the context of Kyle Rittenhouse taking a gun to a protest, like, I mean, first of all, I find it interesting because obviously as someone who lives in a country where we don't really have guns and guns law is so strict. I mean, guns exist, right? I am kind of like repulsed by guns in a sense of like, obviously it's clearly plays a big role and in like the mass amount of school shootings and things to that effect. But then I also see in a context of a society where your police are so highly militarized that like I understand why people have guns. And like when I was watching the video, I'm sure you guys both saw it, of the Black Panther guy who isn't a Black Panther, maybe, who had like a...
Yeah, that's an interesting thing in Philly right now, Yeah,
he had the gun. And it's like, when I'm talking about it, I'm like, I'm not being like, oh, because this guy has a gun. It's just generally looking at a gun is like, fuck, that's, you know, something that could kill it could kill a lot of people quite easily. But then I also do appreciate like why someone like that may want to have a gun in a country where so many people have guns and, you know, your police department have basically like fucking tanks and shit to just roll around with and police you with. And they are more than happy to use them in any situation that they want.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm biased because I grew up in like a right-wing, like gun-owning family that was like, no, if the government becomes tyrannical, we're gonna get them. You know what I mean? Like, kind of shit.
Yeah.
But it's like
taking out Biden, Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna do it. Like my oh my god, I had a family member of mine. I'm not gonna say which one, but like it was really fucking funny because he was like. It was under the Obama administration. We were watching like this train, like basically hauling a bunch of Humvees through Louisville, Kentucky. And he was like, yeah, you know, this is Obama setting up for like, you know, civil war for when he gets his third term. And I remember at the time I was like, I think it's just like Fort fucking Pendleton or whatever. Like I think there's like a Fort Campbell, Kentucky. That's over there. I think that's like the way the train's going. But I was like, yeah, but sure, fuck it, maybe like, you know, Civil War or something. But like now we're like actually seeing this play out, and like all the Second Amendment guys are like, yo, I don't know, and it's largely because like they like this, like they love the police state as long as it's killing like their opposition.
It's just so interesting because all of those guys would, you know, the argument is that they need it.
Yeah.
because in case the state goes tyrannical. But weren't they all saying that Biden was tyrannical? Weren't they all saying that he was like Dark Brandon or some shit with the Stalin glowing eyes? They didn't do anything there. So, I mean...
No, well, you gotta... It's important to note that the majority of gun owners who are like talking up like the Civil War shit realistically just treat guns like Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Where like they just really want to have a lot of guns and it's like a toy for them. So it's like, fuck yeah, like look at my hyper rigged up AR-15. Like, you're never using that outside of a range.
I'm very pro-gun. I'm just kind of anti-gun culture. I think the gun culture in America is weird. But I don't know if you could see this. I'm going to share this. This is my favorite meme.
I think one thing for me... Oh, wait, it's coming up now.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see it?
Be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm So Mark's saying, James,
Chad
you can read
Karl
Reagan.
Marx.
I'm reading
boy.
Marx. You're reading Reagan because you love him. Under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated by force if necessary. Karl Marx.
My favorite, this is my boy, Ronnie. There's no reason why on the street today a citizen should be carrying loaded weapons. I can think of a couple.
Yeah. Chad Marx versus Virgin Reagan.
Oh, it's actually interesting contextually. Like, I think this quote is probably coming from like the Black Panthers back in like the 60s, I believe. Yeah. Actually went to the California State House loaded, talking about this, the Mulford Act, which was a big thing in California at the time, that was going to restrict the ability for people to carry around loaded weapons, and in no small part as a response to like the Panthers and their operations in California. And like Reagan was a big proponent of that, pushing for it, because he was like, yeah, these radicals are like carrying firearms around. And it's like, yeah, but everyone knows him as like the NRA guy, basically, right? But it's like they have their exceptions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also something that kind of I find difficult about American gun culture is how they kind of like flow over into both Canada and
in Mexico.
Yeah, where in Mexico the people getting their hands on them are probably just realistically like cartel or gang kind of things, and then probably the same in actually Canada as well. I mean, your former Olympic champion, Isaac, Ryan Wedding, was just arrested in Mexico.
An American hero. Hero.
I just heard about that, like, very recently. When did it happen? 2 days ago?
It was a few days ago, and Kash Patel almost caused a diplomatic incident. Do you know about this?
No.
So in Mexico, US agents aren't allowed to operate on Mexican soil. It's like a pretty significant thing, and apparently for a lot of staunch Mexican nationalists, it's like a real red line. And Kash Patel was like, "Our brave FBI boys were down there arresting them in memory of Charlie Kirk."
No fucking way. Are you kidding
he didn't
right
mention Charlie Kirk. I added the Charlie Kirk.
I believed it. I was like, no, that sounds like something Kash Patel would say. Like,
yeah.
Fuck,
I don't know. I mean,
can I
obviously,
put on my conspiracy cap for a second too?
Okay.
This is not about Kash Patel. I think he's fucking insane. But it's actually very interesting. So, do you guys know Seth Harp? He wrote like the Fort Bragg cartel.
Yeah, I do. Do you know of him, Isaac?
No.
Yeah. Really, really interesting guy. Former like U.S. Army Ranger, who like went into this massive investigatory effort around like Fort Bragg, which is like where JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, is housed, right? Where like a lot of the Delta Force guys are. And he was investigating this murder of like a Delta Force operator in Fort Bragg. And it led him to interviewing like hundreds of family members of Delta Force operators and like guys in the Special Forces community, and basically unraveling this massive like narcotic smuggling operation happening out of Fort Bragg. And that includes gun running. And a lot of that goes to the cartels, because a lot of JSOC operators, like Delta Force guys, like their retirement plans are tied up with cartels, because cartels will pay them big bucks to smuggle weapons, and will also pay them really well to train their people. So like the Los Zetas cartel in Mexico, like we know them now, I think, as like one of the most like militant cartel factions like in Mexico. They started out as like the Mexican military Green Beret training program. Like they were trained out of Fort Bragg. And they went into Mexico, defected like within a year or some shit, because they realized we could just make way more money being security services for the cartels. And then after a year or two more, they were like, "Whoa, we can actually just be a cartel, guys!" Like, and like, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's a bit of a tangent now, but I'm also really intrigued. No.
Cool.
I want to add to the tangent. Your stuff was way more relevant. Do you know about like the overflow of Colombian militants to The UAE.
So, like, UAE? Yeah. It's crazy.
It's fucking crazy. This is something that I really want to like learn more about, because obviously they love Sudanese Sudanese people, because Sudanese people there are a lot of like disaffected young men there who have no work opportunity, who quite a lot of have military experience from a very young age in like context of obviously the Sudanese civil war, and also prior to that. And like they form the majority of the ground troops in Yemen, but Colombians is such an interesting thing, because I was wondering where they actually, I remember Electra told me this, I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, Colombians, loads of Colombians. And I wondered what it was. Is it like people who are from like related to gangs and drug related stuff in Colombia? Or is it just like ex-military who are like, okay, there's, soldiers of fortune style kind of stuff. Like, okay, I'm going over there because the UAE will pay me insane money, because if the UAE only has about 100 people there, and so when 50 of them got blown up by the Houthis, what are they going to do? That's half the population.
No, I remember that when like the UAE were sending in their own people for like 20 minutes, and like they got like just decimated by Ansar Allah, and then they came back, and the royal family was like, hey guys, like we're like losing family lineage right now. Can we like just send in poor people?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They learned the US lesson in 20 minutes flat.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is so like horrifying, whether it's like the US military, and like once again, I guess it's more like how this is all dialectical as opposed to something where it's like the US is becoming anything. There's a flow of how like America's support for Israel and its enabling of Israel, and really the West's creation of Israel, has always like been an expression of coloniality, but also the way in which the techniques that are tried and tested there. Because obviously people are focused on, the fucking weaponry, because that's obviously like, hey, literally a testing ground for some horrifying new bomb you've invented. Much in the same way that I assume Russia-Ukraine has been like a great way to field test whatever the hell you wanted to for the West.
Yeah.
But in the context of Israel, it's also control of just restive population, as I said earlier. Like how do you test policing people who aren't like protesters in Minnesota, where, that old guy, of course, it's the first time he's come out, but he clearly has incentives not to protest. What do you do in a context like Gaza, where it's predominantly young men who cannot get a job? Like, they cannot get a job. They cannot leave. What do you do? What do you do when, how do you develop a technique to control a huge non-violent resistance movement like the Great March of Return? How do you do it? And then those techniques spill over. They don't spill over. Those techniques are honed from, because in America, I'd say like generally you're dealing with smaller protests on like the whole in the context of, when it's not a time like post October the 7th, when it's not a time like BLM. Whereas in Israel, they have all of these constant issues of dealing with small, constant protests and large protests like the Intifada. Like, no doubt the first Intifada is one of the most seminal moments for the development of like dealing with non-violent protesters.
Yeah. I mean, and even then, like the Israelis learned a lot from the US as well in that regard also. Like the Montgomery bus boycotts are a really good example, where like obviously in the US context in Montgomery, Alabama, like they had segregated buses and stuff, right? So like a lot of like the black people in Montgomery started boycotting the bus lines, functionally protesting for desegregation of the buses. That was tried by Palestinians in, I think, Tel Aviv, and like the Israelis just shut the bus lines down. Like they just said, fuck it. Like, because they were like, we're not doing what just happened in Montgomery, right? They learned from these other nonviolent experiences and use it to hone in their own occupational strategy.
It's crazy. Honestly crazy, like watching and listening to people trying to sanitize Nelson Mandela and stuff, and like act as if Palestine is some like crazy liberation movement now, when obviously these people were all working together in like the fucking UN to target Israel, to target the people who had the boots on the necks of all of them, like the Algerian struggle, the South African struggle. All of these people were interconnected with Palestine for a reason, because they saw solidarity in what was happening to Palestinians. Because obviously, whilst Palestine has bigger expressions of like huge killings regularly that don't really happen on a similar scale in the US. You know, you don't have moments like post October the 7th. Yeah. Or even like, you know, I couldn't find like I can't think of a protest in the last 20 or 30 years in America where hundreds of people were shot and thousands upon thousands were wounded and maimed, such as the Great March of Return. But like, ultimately, non-violent protesters challenging an authoritarian regime, it's not really surprising that people find connections across these things, you know?
No.
Like, Palestine is just an extreme example.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like you see this in like talking about it a lot of historical movements too, and it's not just even the ideological; it's the material, right? The IRA and fucking PLO were trading tech and tactics and fucking arms and shit like that, like, which makes sense. Like a lot of the black and tans went down to Palestine to help the Israelis learn how to do policing. Like, you know, like the Algerian FLN and the PLO obviously had ties. Even Kurdish liberations, like Kurdish militants and liberation struggle advocates in like Eastern Turkey and Kurdish majority zones were training in PLO camps in Lebanon. Like, I mean, like it's real material, like connections.
I mean, kind of it often feels like when I read certain people, because I tend to read like a collection of sources, a lot of people seem to think that like this era is over, like it's all dead. But it doesn't really feel like that way to me. No. It feels like, I don't think these people realize that all of these crises that capitalism and Western imperialism has faced for the last, you know, century are not going away. Yeah. Like, what do they think's going to happen when climate change ramps up and all of a sudden the US government, I mean, Petro's quote is so apt that like when he said Gaza is a rehearsal for what they're going to be doing when it comes to climate change, because of course people are going to spill over borders. Of course people are going to be moving around. Yeah, exactly. And what are they going to do? Oh, the US is building this infrastructure and probably testing on Americans.
Oh, that's the ICE DHS model too. Is like how can we incarcerate as many fucking migrants as possible into our detention facilities? Like,
there's also, I read this. I haven't finished it. It's called Bloody Foreigners, and it has a really interesting start. It's about like immigrants to Britain, and it tells like a very long story of like the Huguenots and people who fled oppression. And he kind of starts it off with like how, and it's really interesting in the context of now. So I don't know if either of you know this. The UK has a real obsession with small boats and people crossing the channel and coming here and coming to steal our shit and take our jobs and attack our women and all of that kind of standard anti-immigrant retioric. Yeah. Do you know about all of this?
I didn't know about that, no.
But the actual reality of these people is most of these people are undertaking an incredibly dangerous journey across the channel. And historically, people have done that before. The Huguenots, they like went through French police trying to persecute them for being Protestants. They made these dangerous journeys across the channel. The church here actually was looked after them a lot, obviously, because there was solidarity amongst Protestants. But they were treated as like these evil people stealing British industry and doing all of this and that. But these journeys were so dangerous. And one thing I watched recently, which I think you've watched as well, is Pluribus. And there's obviously the Darien Gap episode is fucking like, obviously that's not the Darien Gap, but like looking at the Darien Gap and like I knew obviously these journeys are dangerous, but looking into like what crossing the Darien Gap
it's terrifying.
is, do you know about it, Isaac?
Yeah,
the Darien Gap
do you know that guy who's like trying to walk from Chile to the UK? He had to like cross through the Darien Gap. It's like in Panama, right? Yeah, it's Panama. It's like northern Colombia or Panama. That little stretch. Yeah.
I think it's Panama to
or Colombia to Panama. I don't know. It's in that area.
Gap. I think
interestingly, a major inhibitor to animal migration up to North America of like southern American like mammal and other things. Yeah.
So that's why
Darien Gap's really cool.
We don't get jaguars because of the Darien Gap.
Well, also because we killed all of them here. Oh. Yeah. They did used to be here.
Because that would be cool as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really neat. Like the Darien Gap from like an ecological perspective is so fucking cool because like nobody lives there. Like it's like, you know, it's a big barrier. Like
they have like,
sorry, I'm a nerd for that kind of shit. Like
drug smugglers and stuff in there, or like militants.
Also
is that true?
Yeah, I mean, you get drug smugglers and shit through everywhere. Yeah, I mean they have to. Like how else you can overland smuggle? But like it's not like a major inhabited zone with like effective infrastructure and roadways,
It's
right?
so
It's like literally
badass.
just a blockage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick.
Could you imagine though,
It's-
just being a smuggler who works in the Darien Gap? You're like, where do you work? Fucking
Worst
Darien
job
Gap.
in the cartel. Worst job in the cartel. I'd be pissed.
I mean, it does sound like unbelievable that there's actually anyone who could that could be hospitable in any way from like listening or hearing about it. And even those fucking trees that they mention in the show, that's like I don't know. It was Isaac. You have to watch Pluribus.
Yeah, I've never
Someone said
seen
that
it.
there's like it's recent. Someone said that like, oh, you've all
It's kinda
got one
fun.
friend who. Pardon?
All right.
It's kind of fun. I like
good show?
Pluribus a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I like
thought it
Breaking
was-
Bad. It's the same guy, right?
Same producers, yeah.
Same guy. Okay.
Personally, I think there are some things about it that were like better than Breaking Bad in many ways. That I think it told like a more interesting story about late stage capitalism of like
Oh, cool.
what it means to be an individual and like trying to withdraw from late stage capitalism. It's really good actually. But no, the episode on like the Darien Gap and migration, and especially also my girlfriend, who's actually a really big fan of yours, James, mentioned
hell
and
yeah.
when she was talking about this, she was like,
I got
it's
fans
really
and shit."
interesting. So there's kind of like two stories in this, right? There's like a guy from he's from Southern America, and he makes this arduous journey, and he refuses to interact with like the hive mind who'll give you anything to go anywhere, and he makes the journey across the Darien Gap. And it's a really interesting story of like principled South American principled activism versus like some like American person who wants the world to change but finds it impossible to withdraw from like having everything all at once,
Yeah.
and like he literally crosses the Darien Gap, and it tells like a story of like, he's obviously not like an migrant in a normal time, but it is like how treacherous that fucking journey is to just go to America, to just travel across South America, which is it is somewhat possible, isn't it? Because that's the only break in the Pan American Highway could never cross the Darien Gap, right?
Yeah.
So it's just fucking crazy. A great show though, and anyone watching should also check it out. And I guess to like kind of sew together the episode, there's a bit of an elephant in the room that I'm sure is playing on all of our minds, and James mentioned he just was reading like a tiny bit about, which is Iran. Now, obviously we've just had 2 episodes on it. We've just done like more historical stuff, but now, and I'd actually really like your, I don't think either of us are really military heads, so it'd be interesting to hear like from the perspective of why you think it's kind of like undeniable or unstoppable that this will happen now.
I'm chut it out. Let's get it.
Yeah. You're NAFO. What is it? NAFO'd?
Oh, no, chud. It's like a CHUD. It's like an American. It's like just means like fucking hillbilly, I guess.
But what does NAFO mean? Because I always see people talking about NAFO.
I think it's like, I actually don't know. I know the acronym. I know that everybody that it's NAFO, I fucking hate all their, like every time I see a tweet, I'm like, NAFO, I'm like, oh, okay, you suck.
Oh,
If it's what I'm thinking
North
of.
Atlantic Fella Organization.
Oh yeah, it's like Hitler shit, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's mostly I always see the people who talk
like
about
a-
it's just like people who post constantly and shit post about Russia and Ukraine,
Like a
right?
meme
Yeah.
of
That's what I kind
NATO.
of Yeah.
Yeah, NATO stands.
But like, what are you kind of making of the military build-up in Iran? Like, is this inevitability now? Like the strikes are going to happen?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, I usually try not to like be the guy who's like, it's fucking happening, guys, because like the one time I did that, it's actually about Ukraine. I completely fucked me, because like I didn't think they were gonna invade, and I made a video like a day before that like went semi-viral, being like, no, there's no way, guys. It's fucking what are you talking about? And then like the next, I woke up and I was like, oh fuck, like they're past, they're rolling into Kiev or whatever.
They did it loads of times, though, right? Like built up at the border, and the escalation didn't happen.
I mean, no military analyst worth their fucking salt outside of like US DOD thought that like the Russians were actually going to pull the trigger on that. Like every European analyst I talked to said no.
No one predicted the collapse of Assad at all. Most people were like, oh, the situation in Syria has somewhat stabilized. No academic expert was talking about that, which is kind of why, like, I guess asking you for like a kind of prediction about this is kind of semi-stupid in one way, because it's like none of us realistically 100% know. But yeah, like this military build-up, I mean, the way you were kind of talking about it and like the units building up there, it seems like I don't know,
I
troubling.
mean, there's red flags. Yeah, I mean, like, beyond the naval assets, like, this is something that people have to understand, I think, really critically about U.S. naval doctrine and, like, how the U.S. Navy operates is, like, when you're seeing, like, a carrier being brought into an area, it's never just an aircraft carrier, right? The U.S. has, like, battle groups functionally for naval assets that are centered around carriers, like carrier fleets, right? So you have your carrier, you have, like, all of the escort vehicles, submarines generally accompany these convoys, these fleets. So what you end up getting is like a massive amount of ships coming in alongside this carrier, right? So it's like, it's funny when you see people like, oh, like this aircraft carrier is now in the area. It's like, well, that means there's a lot of fucking hardware beyond the carrier in the area, right? You're seeing like massive destroyer redeployments. You're seeing like massive amounts of naval assets that are going into these areas, which are largely bringing in, and this is the biggest key here really that I think is the reason why Trump didn't do this earlier in January or earlier this month, is massive amounts of anti-aircraft suppression or like anti like missile like suppression stuff, right? Like interception systems. And like when you're seeing this massing of naval assets, it doesn't inherently mean that much. Like the U.S. Navy kind of just does what it does, right? I'm like realistically, the U.S. Navy controls the high seas, like basically wherever it damn well feels like it needs to function. That's the reality of U.S. naval investment. Now, can it actually sustain operations? Unsure at this point, right? I think Yemen was a really good demonstration of the limits of like military hard power in a naval sense in the modern day. I've seen some analysis that came out of like the Operation Prosperian Garden in Yemen that it demonstrated that like a lot of U.S. military analysts were actually really fucking anxious about that because the Yemenis came uncomfortably close to like hitting a couple of our ships a couple of times.
There was the moment where they lost the planes, right? And they were like trying to justify it.
Yeah.
Wasn't it something to do with like some
like
people
an
say it may
emergency
have
maneuver
been
or something.
making an emergency maneuver, and like if the Houthis can do that, something I saw that they're allegedly somewhat worried about is if Iran drone swarms them or like drone swarms a ship and sinks a US ship because of the level of propaganda victory and also the level of, I guess where the issue lies there is, you know, that publicly it really undermines the US invincibility image. Yeah. But also like, oh, American boys are drowning in the Persian Gulf.
And I mean, the only people that are allowed to sink U.S. vessels are the Israelis. So, like, no one else can do that.
Yeah, true.
So, like, it's a problem when other people do it. But, like, it is a real issue with the naval assets themselves. But that's not, like, the full scope of what we're seeing, right? You're seeing a major amount of U.S. aircraft massing in bases in areas like Jordan and others. Like, there have been a number of countries that have said they're not going to be using their airspaces or whatever for U.S. military operations, likely because Iran has promised like strikes against any state that's assisting functionally. But the reality is, which I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but like the reality of it is that like, you know, we're moving material around in such a fashion that we're bringing growlers in, these massive, these like jets. We're bringing in a lot of like fuel tankers. We're bringing in a lot of like things that you would expect to accompany large amounts of air wings that are going to be doing regular sorties in and out of country or in and out of different airspaces. Primarily, though, the big red flag are what are called rivet joints. A rivet joint is a specialized U.S. reconnaissance plane that basically is incredibly fascinating from a technical perspective, right? These planes are able to basically gather a lot of like electromagnetic signatures, are able to basically pinpoint and intercept different communications. The U.S., what they do is they fly these around the border of nations that they want to like identify defensive positions in functionally, like where missile batteries at, where things at. And we have at least one of them now flying into the area, right? The thing about rivet joints, similar to the naval thing, is like they don't operate alone, right? Rivet joints oftentimes operate with what are called AWACS. So these are a sort of a U.S. aircraft that has like you might have seen them, like a photo, like the big cargo plane looking things that have the massive like satellite on top of them.
Oh yeah.
They all coordinate with each other to create like a really interesting surveillance network in the air that is able to actually adequately pinpoint a lot of things. So the last time the U.S. made strikes in Iran, you had rivet joints flying operations beforehand. In a lot of areas where you're seeing U.S. Forces operate and like U.S. forces prepare for some sort of like fight or whatever they're going to be doing, you're going to be seeing like rivet joints, AWACS, things like this, surveillance planes and drones going around.
So before Venezuela, were they deployed there too? I guess.
I'm pretty sure rivet joints were involved,
It's interesting because, I mean, Venezuela is still like a loose end. Like we don't know what's going on there. They didn't really replace like the regime. They just kind of used the vice president. But in the case of Iran, what do you think the likelihood is of actually getting Reza Pahlavi in there?
Oh, zero. That I don't think. Well, so I have like buddies of mine who are Iranian and do analysis on this stuff as well. And guys who just like do a lot of research on Iran more particularly as well. And the general consensus I've heard from talking with them is that like the Pahlavists really don't have the ability to build an effective coalition because they're on the ground in Iran. They don't play well with other factions is really what it boils down to. Like they don't see themselves as part of a coalition. And even like an Iranian opposition coalition right now looks kind of weird on the ground because there's not really like an alternative vision for national leadership that's unifying these factions, right?
Yeah.
So you end up in a position where like you have what is largely just an incredibly nihilistic base of people who don't necessarily have an alternative vision that's fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
And then you have competing factions that are trying to enact their own national vision post fall of the IRGC.
That's
right?
probably the most worrisome component of this too, because I mean we saw in Syria the power vacuum that came, Libya the power vacuum. You have all of these factions that can't agree, want to fight for power. I mean, it's not going to be good.
And that's the reality you get. I think as far as strikes that we're going to be seeing, though, like the typical Trump MO are rapid strikes that effectively are able to avert like long-term bogging down of military assets and hardware. So like what you're probably going to be seeing are targeted strikes against military installations and officials, targeted strikes against political officials. There have been limited reports, and this is the thing that's like complicated about like OSINT stuff, is that like you don't actually always know what's on a plane, but you can see the plane and tie it back to different things. Aircraft that are typically involved in the transportation of U.S. Special Forces, like JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command operators, have been going out through like Azerbaijan and other areas. Assuming those are what I think they are, which is probably Delta Force contingent, there's a lot of different things that can actually occur there, right? There's a lot of operations that Special Forces operators can undergo. What you'd likely see there is something similar to Venezuela, where it's like capture or kill operations against military and political leadership and or small border raids to tie up resources and support forces, right? Yeah. Those are what I would assume is probably going to be happening. The thing is, though, like, the Trump administration has to weigh this in terms of like how many U.S. service members can actually die, right? Because Venezuela didn't seemingly. I mean, like you had people fucking fighting, the Venezuelans and Cubans, right? But like the U.S. really took them by surprise in some senses. It's harder in the Iranian perspective. Like their military infrastructure is radically different. The way that they're organized militarily is different. Even like, like kind of what I would describe as like quasi-militia forces within Iran are operating a bit differently. So like you have like a culmination of defensive factors that makes it way harder for U.S. military operators to enter the country not being immediately fucking pegged. Yeah. And then getting out after they've landed. Right now, I have no doubt that U.S. Special Forces operators are capable of entering and exiting an area rather rapidly and doing as much damage as possible. That's what they train to do. Yeah. Right. But like aircraft, naval assets, things like that, there's a lot of questions. There's a reason why like the aircraft carrier that's currently sitting off the Red Sea, I don't remember the name of it, at the moment, is like sitting like thousands, it's like 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers off the coast, right? It's because what they're trying to do is expand their operational zone by bringing in these tankers that can actually refuel these fighter jets in air, so that they're not putting these naval assets at risk of like, of like seaborne missile strikes, things like that, drones. But yeah,
it's really interesting to me because I don't know. I just don't see an outcome in which the US doesn't get bogged down, which is just horrible for Trump's base. Like, but then is there the alternative option of Trump has seized so much like actual power inside the US and taken away so many stops, and the Democrats don't actually seem that willing, that maybe he finds some way to get them bogged down in fucking Iran, and then it's like, no elections in 2028, no midterms because we're in a war.
Well, I mean, it's a bipartisan project too. Like Democrats want to invade Iran just as bad as the fucking Republicans do. They don't say it, but like it's been the talking point for fucking years.
Yeah, well, weren't those strikes that Trump conducted, weren't they practiced under Biden, rehearsed under Biden?
Yes.
Yeah, all the operational plannings existed for years.
Yeah, Midnight, they made out as if Midnight Hammer was this spectacular thing that came out of Trump's mind, and it's like, no, this was planned for ages. Like Midnight Hammer referring to Trump's previous bombardment of Iran's nuclear facilities that seemingly did not even have the success that they had claimed.
Didn't even kick the door in, which is great.
No.
Right.
And they still have the enriched uranium is still like a question mark, and Iran has other nuclear enrichment sites that had not been seen by the IEAE.
Yeah.
The IEAE. IAEA, I don't know.
International Atomic
whichever.
Energy Agency.
Nice,
Yeah.
well done, Isaac. International Atomic.
Damn. All right, Isaac's got it down. Shit.
Yeah.
I was
studying. I was studying on the JCPOA last week. That's why.
Hell yeah.
Well, like that is just like, it's not actually a great means to get rid of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and who knows what will emerge. And I know some people talk about a potential coup within the IRGC carrying out and Khamenei being killed.
Yeah.
But I just think that the main problem is the bitterest pill that I just don't think you could make anyone really swallow unless you get Pahlavi in to be like, I'm recognizing Israel, is normalizing with Israel. I know that people have this perception it's only diasporas who really don't like who really don't like Palestine and stuff. I know there is some sentiment inside Iran not to like Palestine because they kind of see it as like a wasted Iranian money that Iranians needed. Yeah. It's kind of how some Americans see Israel, that their only real problem with Israel is not like the grotesque nature of their violence, but actually that we just keep giving them money when Americans are poor and shit, you know.
The libertarian stance,
and there are Iranians who feel this way, and especially in like an even more economically disaffected situation than most Americans experience. That's obviously going to be a strong animosity. However, I think if it's like an internal style coup, I think the main problem is like, you know, working with the West, fine. Working with Israel for like people in the IRGC, it feels like that would be really hard to kind of justify. But saying this, fucking Jalani al-Shara is happy to negotiate with Israel, but ultimately Israel's not happy to negotiate because way too big a power base emerging in the Middle East from Turkey, Middle East, North Africa, I should say, from Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Syria, actually, that looks like where the new problem for Israel is really emerging. Not that it couldn't necessarily just decimate them with its air capacity, aerial abilities, but simultaneously there is like somewhat of a challenge to the status quo and a challenge to the Emirati status quo that had been in the making and in the building for years. Now there's really something. I mean, the Emirati, I think once again, this is also my difficulties around Iran. Like, ultimately, the UAE acts as a counter-revolutionary force outside of its borders in a major way. And like a major part of that counter-revolution was to prevent Sudan emerging in a way that they did not want it to emerge. And they have funded and aided and abetted both previously Burhan, the former dictator.
Because the Sudanese government pre-Civil War, like at least one of the former governments was incredibly supportive of like Hamas and like had Hamas cadres like training and fighting inside of Sudan.
So excuse me, Omar al-Bashir was the former governor, the like former president of Sudan, autocrat for nearly 30, 40 years, like on and off in Sudan. And both the UAE and Saudi Arabia supported him. It was actually because he refused to take a major stance in the Qatar crisis, and that because he kept playing them off against Iran, against Qatar, and so they decided, right, you're not a reliable ally, and so they decided for the coup, and then Saudi went in favor of Burhan, and UAE was like, Burhan, we like this.
Is the head of the SAF.
Head of the SAF. He's also a bad guy, but it's like, once again, in the context of Sudanese armed forces versus RSF, there's no real
not even close.
The RSF are like really wickedly cruel. And like it's the same way that, you know, like Houthis are accused of a considerable number of war crimes, including, I think there are some contexts where I think the Houthis may have weaponized starvation in certain contexts. However, simultaneously, and in terms of using it for a siege, by the way, I'm not talking about general starvation in Yemen. However, simultaneously, like trying to compare them to the Saudi UAE-led bombardment of them, no. Saudi Arabia and the UAE killed tens of thousands, committed war crimes that the Houthis do not even possess the ability to perpetrate because they don't have fucking, you know, American-made jets to go and blow up some wedding. You know, and it's kind of, I guess, like a context like that for someone like me. But yeah, I think in that context, I always find it really hard to buy into Iran, bad, destabilizing menace in the Middle East. If gone, good world emerges, and it's like, hang on a second, Israel still exists, and most importantly, actually, American power still exists in the MENA region. And so it's just it's a tough situation. And you know what? One thing I will say about Trump and reading Trump, I think some people are too dismissive of this notion that you can find explanations for what Trump is doing in really stupid stuff. I genuinely do think distracting from the from the Epstein stuff, huge stuff has just emerged, is not actually why he's gonna bombard Iran.
Yeah.
That it extends beyond that. But where the timing may be, that it may come now after a huge tranche of Epstein documents, which some of which allegedly include allegations of Trump with minors. And I'm actually just seeing, apparently, the FBI, Disclosed TV is posting this. FBI report citing a confidential human source released in the final batch of Epstein files claims Trump has been compromised by Israel. Don't know where that's, don't know the truth in that or, what's going on with there. But there's a lot of considerable amount of stuff emerging of Trump and minors. Genuinely do think Trump may have planned this around, hey, this shit's going to release, so maybe we're going to do our bombing around that to prevent significance, of that happening.
Well, I think Trump's also like an old head imperial stooge. Like he's looking at oil and he's going, how can we capture as much as humanly possible? And also like just play into like general US imperial strategy. Like there's a really good book that I bring up in like every fucking conversation I've had at this point called Outsourced Empire. That talks a lot about US imperial models and how like for the US government, it's best to kind of see it as a manager of capital order. Right. So like basically the US is willing to work with other imperial powers and other capitalist actors in like a transnational capitalist class to advance cumulative agendas as long as it stabilizes the system itself. Right. So like we're able, like for the US government, the ultimate thing is like, how can we integrate more and more people and more markets into our sphere of power, our sphere of influence, right? Yeah. How do we keep markets as quote unquote open as possible, which really just means as exploitable as possible, right? Yeah. And when you're looking at like Iran, at Venezuela, at Cuba, at all these other areas that Trump is trying to crack down on, these are entities that have found themselves outside of the realm of immediate U.S. hegemony and immediate U.S. economic and political dominance, right? So in a lot of ways, this is just a culmination of like a decades long, since World War II at least, long plan of like U.S. larger like global integration into a U.S.-led capital order that like is essentially just towing the line to ensure market availability, right? And in this drive for super profits, yada yada, right? But like realistically, I don't know, like to your point, Chris, even if all of this fucking works, even if every fucking opposition is destroyed, even if Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, fucking Hezbollah, all the Palestinian factions, everything falls, like it doesn't solve the underlying contradictions, right? I just talking to a buddy of mine at a train station, like during New Year's, a couple of buddies of mine, and I was like, honestly, I don't know what I would do if I was like alive in like 91. And like you're like my age, and I'm like watching the Soviet Union collapse. For me, I can see that being like a moment of like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah, for sure.
The end of history.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's done. Like
that
but
was
like
the total
now,
victory of liberal. It's not that like the actual essay is not like history ended. It's like there will be nothing. No alternative is led to Western-led liberal democracy. Yeah. And at that moment, it felt like it's over. But what people didn't really realize, or perhaps like they don't really understand, is capital always needs the big bad enemy. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, we still have China like as like the main global enemy, but there will always be someone else. I mean, one major part of the Bush's axis of evil will remain even if Iran goes. North Korea will still remain, and the Houthis will remain, and they have shown a remarkable resilience and an ability to inflict issues. And sure, Iran has helped them and enabled that, but Palestinian resistance remain. And also, I don't think it should be discredited, as many thinkers themselves from Palestine did. The resistance inside Western countries and societies exists, and I know some people discount it and stuff, but I'm sure that that's not going anywhere. And especially as fascism becomes more evident once again, I'm sure that this will lead to a rise of considerably stronger and more powerful resistance.
For
God,
sure.
I fucking hope so.
Yeah, unless you.
I'm
remedy-
excited for Hakeem Jeffries to lead us to deliberation. Is what I'm excited about.
The brave Maoist third worldist Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah. We're going to the people with Chuck Schumer.
Hakeem Jeffries, Kirsten Cinema, and what's her name? Marie Gluesenkamp.
Camp Perez.
Yeah. After seeing her video, I recently watched the Malcolm X film.
That fucking video.
I saw it electrified me. I saw echoes of Malcolm X himself in the way she spoke when she's, and also I just have it paused at the start. I don't know why she's like doing this in a video. I often find this, and I'm sure you probably find this interesting too. I find it interesting because, like, look, if I make a mistake that's like unfixable in a video and it's really annoying, I'll restart it. Or I'll edit it. Like, if it's totally unfixable and the full thing's done and I'm like, shit, it's going to look different when I do it again, I'm editing that shit. We are not US Congress people. We are not, politicians. We are not in political positions of power. If I was, I would be like, shit, I'm editing this shit perfectly. They'd probably pay someone to fucking edit it. And the person who edits it, like, hey, could you maybe re-record this? But they're probably like, don't really want to do it because they don't want to lose their chance.
I'm friends with a lot of videographers and campaign staffers, and that's the process. Like, if the candidate fucks it up, you just redo it. Yeah. Like, it's just how it goes. She's just riffing. Like, she's just like getting on me, like taking it like she's talking to her fucking kid on FaceTime and then just posted it. It's like, dude, what are you fucking doing? Like, I want to do a compilation of like every pause or like minuscule fuck up she has and just like put that in a video. And I bet it would be like a minute long for every video she does. But I have a theory that it would do well on Twitter. I might do that this weekend.
She doesn't seem loved by the online leftists.
Oh, nobody fucking likes her. I mean, this is the funny thing too. It's not even like the online leftists. Like, she's not very well like she won her district. This is background on the Pacific Northwest and like all of these races. Like, she was up against like a literal Nazi when she was running for her term, and like won because of course she fucking did. She was like a lukewarm center right Democrat against like Hitler, and like somehow came out on top of that barely. And like the Democratic Party looked at her and looked at other moderates and like the Blue Dog Caucus of the Democratic Party and were like, this is the future. This is the model. Like, this is how we're gonna win. And it's like, no, like, these guys are fucking awful. Like, their opinions low. Like, people fucking hate them. They make all these gaffes that make the entire party look ridiculous. If I was a Democratic Party official, I'd be telling her to get the fuck off Twitter. Like, I'm not.
Get the fuck off Twitter and read the little red book.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, like, do literally anything else. Like her husband has an auto shop. She should just go fuck off and work or something. Like, I don't know, like do something.
Yeah. I mean, for me as well, there was actually a point that I listened to earlier. Someone just made this point of like, I guess this is like an interesting point to like kind of move towards the end, just timing wise and stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is like all of these people who are like, okay, right, you are responsible for ruining Kamala's campaign. You've destroyed us. You've done all of this stuff. You were in power. People who think and feel like you staff the Kamala administration. They are Kamala herself. People who think that the leftists need to be quiet, that they need to let the adults do the talking, that we need to stay the same on Palestine, that we need to stay the same on every other issue that there is, foreign policy, economic policy, the way in which America is as a whole, capitalism. They act as if we are the ones who ruin things. But it is them who staff these administrations. It is people who think and feel like them, who keep running these stupid losing strategies and then have the audacity to go out and blame online leftists, the groups of people who talk about immigration, who do work around that, organizers, anyone that they can find.
It's their responsibility to appeal to the voters, to appeal to the masses, to earn votes. It's just insane how leftists get blamed. And of course, I'm not an American leftist. I'm Canadian, so I'm out of this completely, but
I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's okay. We got some problems here too. Trust me.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah,
but again, like the Democrats have to earn these votes, and it's completely at the end of the day, it's their fault. If they're so uninspiring that they lost to a, pedophile, loser, imperialist scumbag. I mean, not that they aren't either, But
yeah,
I mean, come on, like so over the top, like a cartoonishly bad guy. That's
Yeah.
on them. Like, come on, how the fuck are you losing to that? That's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, you guys saw like what you're describing is like an outright threat to democracy. Like, this is their rhetoric.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, the people we need to throw up against this, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. That's our best three. That's our starting lineup. Yeah, you're fucked. Like, yeah,
Don't
like
forget Dick Cheney. They brought him out. They wheeled him out to...
They sent fucking Bill Clinton, the butcher of Bosnia, Bill Clinton, to a Bosnian majority. Like, there are a lot of large Bosnian population in fucking Dearborn, and then told all of them just to like fuck off about Palestine. It's like,
crazy.
What are we doing? Like what? Like it's insane.
Is it Kosovo where they have a statue of Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's complicated. It's complicated.
That's a pretty.
God.
I'm not gonna say anything.
It's not
now.
great.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not great. No, listen. Kosovo's weird. Bosnia, there's intricacies. fucking Joe Biden was one of the guys that was lobbying to like end the arms embargo against the Bosnian military during the Serbian genocide, right? And weird fucking roles. Like,
yeah.
Weird geopolitics as well.
Weird
Incredible
geopolitics.
Rudy Giuliani, unequivocal condemnation of the Shah of Iran.
Yeah.
He hates him.
Wow.
He
Fucking hates
hates
him.
Pahlavi. Do you know
Why?
about this idea?
Why?
Yeah, it's
No.
not like him.
Why?
Because he's somehow related to the MEK.
Yeah.
The militant dissident group in Iran. He's somehow related to them. He has he does organizing with the MEK. Lord knows why.
Giuliani.
But yeah, Rudy Giuliani, 100%. Wait.
I thought he was Italian.
That's nuts.
He is Italian.
He's got a little.
We're all Italian if you think about
it. Hold on. Let me see.
Iranians were the first Italians. That's why he's with the MEK. Like,
Wait. His incredible tweet is, the last thing Iran needs after the Ayatollah is that Nepo baby Shah. I've been working for Iranian freedom for many years. I've never seen this Nepo baby do a damn thing for the Iranian people except live luxuriously off the wealth stolen from them. In
Base question mark?
1953, England, the US, and the CIA displaced Iranian democracy. This is where it gets based.
Holy
with
shit.
the crooked and brutal monarchy of the Pahlavi family.
Giuliani
Let's not make the same mistake. Yeah,
Giuliani read all the Shah's men. He's hyped. he's pissed.
The good people of Iran don't want the homicidal Pahlavi secret police, the Savak, taking over the torture from
What
the
are we
Iranian
doing?
guard.
Holy
No,
shit.
Giuliani's like, they're going to take jobs from the well-meaning NYPD officers who want to go and help the MEK. Like,
Wow.
no, that's fucking crazy. No, I mean, I think, the Yugoslavia is fucking crazy though. Like, it's also like the site of one of the most fascinating coalitional efforts amongst like Muslim nations. Like the U.S. imposed an arms embargo on the Bosnian people during the Serbian encroachment and Croatian encroachment in Bosnia. And like the people that were arming and training Bosnian military fighters were like Hezbollah, fucking Iran, Saudi, UAE. Every Arab nation was like, fuck it. Yeah, and the
Sorry
PLO.
to interrupt, but Republika Srpska was getting weapons from Israel at a certain point, right? Like they were, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but every Muslim nation was like, nah, we're going full fucking tilt. Like there's no way Bosnia is collapsing.
I mean, like Bosnia is so interesting because I do think Itzet Begovic, that's his name, right? Alija Itzet Begovic was like the president of Bosnia.
Yeah.
I do, because he had a very interesting past, like a very interesting youth, right? Like he was kind of like Hitler adjacent or Nazi.
Yeah, you're gonna get that. Yeah, you're gonna get that. Yeah.
They were like, again, I'm not like a Serb expansionalist at all. I think like,
no, you're all good. Yeah,
but like it's just there's just so many interesting characters. Like obviously, I do not think Milosevic is a good guy. But also like, yeah, come on, let's be real here.
Like he's not gonna write an intro to your book.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I do like the KLA. They had some interesting characters. I think there was like they're known for a bit of organ harvesting too, right?
They did, there's questions around a lot of what they were up to. Yeah,
Friedman in Croatia was like like Ustaša.
Like actually a Nazi,
Yeah.
You know, the Croatian nationalists, like the Ustaša kind of like the attempt to like basically resuscitate the Ustaša in that period is insane to read about.
Really fucked up.
Yeah. Tito did not off of those guys. Like that is really... Like, I'm a staunch Yugoslav nationalist. I think Tito made some mistakes, and one of them was rearming Chetniks to like go into Kosovo. Crazy
and the
decision.
Loans, the IMF
and the
loans,
loans.
probably too,
the IMF thing was not great. It's.
I'm happy that we share this love for Yugoslavia, though.
It's where I radicalized, like genuinely, like visiting Bosnia is why I came back like a fucking communist. I was like, no, this is ridiculous. Fuck this noise. Like,
I would love to go and like see Sarajevo, just like
it's beautiful
because like the siege and all that shit. Like it would be very interesting, just to like I don't want to say like put yourself into it, but just kind of like see because like there's the mountains that surround it, and just kind of like. I guess you'd be able to fully grasp the severity of how like horrible that was for what 4 years.
Yeah.
Jesus
I mean, well,
Christ.
like the thing is that's crazy. I don't know, like visiting there, like it's such a beautiful, welcoming city. The people are great. But like you're looking around, there's like bullet holes on all the buildings still, like artillery pocket marks, like. They have these things called Sarajevo roses in the sidewalks and like different areas. So like basically where artillery shells had hit that killed people, they'll fill it in with red cement to like show you where each one of these places had been. There's like war memorials all over the damn place. Like it's really fucked. Like it's really bad.
Did you hear about? I think this came out in November of last year, but something about like rich Italians paying for these sniper safaris.
Yeah, I did a piece on this. Yeah,
James wrote a piece on this.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man! I'm sorry
insane.
On behalf of the Italians. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fucking crazy, and it wasn't just Italians either. Like they were just the ones that are getting tried right now, but it was a multinational thing. Like, from the information that we have available, I don't think it was just Italians, but like it's insane.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they were paying.
It's unbelievable that you can do it.
They were paying to go and snipe like civilians, and I guess like I heard that children were like more expensive or whatever.
Oh, I don't know about the direct payment elements. I know that like what the allegations are and what a lot of Bosnians that I've talked to have framed it as, that have like done research on this, is like you had essentially a system where like Serbian military officers that were in the siege would be paid by like wealthy European tourists to come in for like a day or a weekend or whatever and just take up like sniper rifles all like on the surrounding siege territories and just like take pot shots at whoever they wanted to fucking take pot shots at.
Holy fuck.
Like it's crazy. No, it's insane. Like
that's so insane. I can't even believe it.
Do you both know that Keir Starmer was like an international lawyer?
Yeah.
Do you know that he was involved in a genocide case?
Which one?
Was he like
against Serbia?
Was he like defending Milosevic?
Oh, was it Srebrenica?
No, he was against Serbia. Yes.
Srebrenica, really?
Srebrenica?
So he represented Croatia at the ICJ in 2014, and he said he talks about the Croatian city of Vukovar, which was besieged and occupied by the Serbs. Wait, I just want to find
this was before the Bosnians did their referendum for independence, and like they shifted it down.
That was 92, right? Or 90?
I think it's 91, 92. Okay. I want to say it was the early 90s for sure. I can't remember the exact date. I have a book that would tell me, but I can't see it.
The aim of the crimes committed against ethnic Croats appears to have been the forced displacement of the majority of the Croat population in the regions concerned, not its physical, biological destruction. He also talked about how the destruction and targeting of civilian population was radically disproportionate, and that the Serbian leadership had the aim of the Serbian leadership and the JNA had the plan to permanently eradicate the Croatian population. It's just unbelievable because obviously he's been such a staunch defender of Israel. When like if you read most of it and he talks about the bombardment, pretty much everything he says is applicable to Gaza. Yeah. Like, there are some quotes which literally read as if they could have been lifted out so as to describe Israel's assault on the Gaza Strip. Yeah. And it's shocking that he was like, he's now this person that he is. But then I guess it was pretty much just money at the time, or actually I assume you're not paid that much. I don't even know what drew him to it and then changed him, getting into politics.
Well, that was the fancy like humanitarian interventionalist cause too, though, for like a long time. Like the dissolution of Yugoslavia is where a lot of people cut their teeth in early wartime correspondence and stuff that led to a lot of like stuff. Samantha Power, as well, started as a wartime correspondent in Sarajevo. Like that was where she cut her teeth and got some of her bona fides to be able to go back and like start a career. Like, and now she's like USAID.
Yeah.
Like it's not good. But yeah, and it's a whole thing. I mean, like, and like the sad part too is that like there were so many lessons in Yugoslavia and countless other examples that like you can look at. And like all these people who were real hawks about this, they turned to the Israelis and they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys kill as many people as you want. Fuck it, like, whatever." Like,
Yeah.
it's like, guys, like, like
Crazy. And it's also really crazy how the only instance of genocide that is technically legally acknowledged in regards to Bosnia is Srebrenica. But
yeah.
that happened those massacres, similar massacres happened all across Bosnia.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not even the only safe zone I think to get overrun.
No,
either.
like
Two.
Zepa,
Yeah.
they had one.
Yeah,
Well, many of them did. It's really interesting, and like they're like the NATO intervention kind of like triggered the massacres too, right? Like they were like, oh fuck.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, they definitely did in the Kosovar context. I would say as well. Like, yeah, like there was an intensification of ethnic cleansing efforts by the Serbians that picked up once the operation started. And like NATO really didn't target like Serbian military forces.
No,
at all.
they targeted like civilian infrastructure.
Like, yeah.
There's a quote from Lord Caradon, who was the General Secretary of NATO, and he said that essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but it'll be in my next video about why NATO sucks. But he said pretty much how NATO exacerbated the very ethnic cleansing that they sought to prevent in Kosovo.
I mean, and they did nothing on the ground really to stop any of that shit. Like realistically, what they did was they attacked civilian infrastructure and in manufacturing capacity to
use depleted uranium.
The hospitals, hit the Chinese embassy. Like, I mean, like it's blatant, right? I mean, like, I think that there is a definite case to be made of like both being like oppositional to Serbian nationalist, I think, goals in Bosnia and to a degree as also Kosovo, while simultaneously acknowledging that the NATO bombardment was fucking awful. Like, I mean, like the NATO did not give a shit about Kosovo, like Kosovo's liberation. They didn't give a shit about Bosnians. Like, they gave a shit about manufacturing conditions for like optimum capital extraction.
Yeah, they set up Camp Bondsteel in Kosovo, which was that huge, essentially like a CIA like torture black site where they would do like arbitrary detention, and it became like a big contractor for the city. It fueled all of like the NATO troops in Kosovo, in the province. In Kosovo, fueled like an explosion of like prostitution, and then the new Kosovar leadership ended up supplying like 80% of the heroin trade in Europe.
I mean, like that's a big thing. Like, I mean, like realistically, NATO. I mean, this is depending on what analysis you read on Yugoslavia. Like, there's a really good argument to be made that the U.S. government and to an extent the European community, who are really in competition throughout a lot of the dissolution, like, or not in competition, but trying to like basically figure out where each other lied and like whether or not the European community could build its own security apparatus outside of NATO. But like, there's a really interesting discussion to be had that like a lot of the U.S. planning in Yugoslavia largely led to like an over centralization in the Serbian context, which led to the breakaway of like Bosnia and other things, like because the debt trapping and everything else that the IMF was doing and these other like these banks and everything were doing really relied on a very strong centralized Yugoslav state that was centralized under Serbian like manufacturing and mining infrastructure. And like when you had a Serbian Communist Party that just became, I mean, a Yugoslav Communist Party that became like giving it away, they became like primarily Serbian, and like the Yugoslav national military basically becomes like a primarily Serbian like economic subsistence thing. And then you're like the Yugoslav model's dumping so much money into Bosnia and Kosovo for like developmental aid and stuff like that. It, like you create a tinderbox that like nationalists like Milosevic are able to take advantage of.
The way that the financial aid was being given to Yugoslavia completely bypassed the federal structure and just went straight to the republics, right? And then the republics that had like secessionary or nationalist sentiment were getting more funding, and it just I mean, that's a very bad situation.
Well, it's Tito's own model as well, was largely like taking these massively economically productive areas, Slovenia, Serbia, largely Croatia, and like basically extracting some of like what you would describe as like their profit, quote unquote, and redistributing it more equitably throughout the republic, right, or throughout the federation. So you have like massive, like what could be described as like welfare style policies like being given out to like the Bosnians and the Kosovars. And Tito had a complicated relationship with Kosovo as well, like because like he realistically for a very long time was trying to cut down on a Kosovar like national movement because he saw them as being like genuinely like Albanian. And he fully expected the Albanians to integrate into the Yugoslav Federation, to which like the Kosovo like territory would just be basically annexed into Albania, which would make a lot more sense actually. Like I'm actually very sympathetic to Albanian nationalist positions on Kosovo, but like it just didn't come to fruition. So you end up in this weird situation where like Serbian nationalists saw like expansionary ambitions into Kosovo, into Bosnia, et cetera, like bordering states. Like, it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yugoslavia, you could talk about like for fucking hours.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we should just do a whole episode
Yeah,
on that in the
maybe we
future,
should.
where
Yeah.
I can actually, because it's really not something that I've studied much at all. It is a real
think you
black
find it
spot
interesting.
for me.
Yeah.
I know I 100% would. I find like literally anything related to politics interesting.
Fair.
I was trying to teach my girlfriend not too long ago about like Yugoslavia, and like she was like, "This is too much. This is a step above." Because like I was able
Yeah.
to like kind of explain like Israel Palestine to her in ways where she could understand. But
Yeah.
Yugoslavia, like you got so many different like, you got like Bosnian Serbs, you got like Bosnian Croats.
Yeah.
Like it's
the
a
idea
lot.
of like an ethnicity and a nationality being the same thing, or like being different
Yeah.
things. So like each group
Like-
can have like 3 or 4 identities, like just coinciding with one another.
I tried to explain
Yeah.
to her like a Bosnian Serb is like a Serb in Bosnia, but it was whatever.
Yeah. No, it's crazy too, because like I cut my teeth in Yugoslav history, and like that's where I like kind of like radicalized initially. And then I like went to Palestine, and I was like, oh, this is easy. Like I was like, oh, this fucking breed. Like people were like, it's so complicated. I'm like, guys, I feel like it's not that hard to figure out. Like,
Nah, Yugoslavia
really-
is
I mean-
complicated.
yeah, Yugoslavia is
Palestine-
actually like, oh, what the fuck is going on? outside?
Complicated.
Palestine, in the context of a lot of the Middle East, is not really that complicated because
Yeah.
it's such an obvious relationship between oppressor and oppressed,
Yeah.
and as such an obvious example of someone's land being stolen.
Yeah.
I think with that, I kind of need to finish the episode.
Yeah, we'll call it.
All right.
Yeah. By
Fine.
the way, that was an excellent episode. I especially
Shouldn't,
enjoyed the
Yeah.
second half. There was a real mixture of like shit in there.
Shouldn't
Yeah,
have brought up
um,
Yugoslavia, man. You triggered us.
because the only reason I mean I was
My
very
niche
interested.
hyperfixation is
Yeah.
is going crazy.
But I would really like to do an episode where it seems you don't need all that much prep, Isaac, but where I prep and like get as much down as I can to do like a whole episode again. I'd love to have
Yeah.
you on, James, again.
Of
I
course,
really
that'd be
enjoyed
awesome.
that.
Yeah, I've got to reread that book. 'Cause it's been a minute, but like I would love to kind of dig into it a little bit. I can see my
What's it
hair
called?
now.
I want to check it out.
It's called Bosnia, Kosovo, and the West. I think you might find it really
Awesome.
interesting.
Hell yeah.
It breaks the KLA down, I think, very interestingly.
Okay, because I will say I'm a KLA hater. So, but I'm always open to
No,
change
hey.
my mind.
Everybody starts as a KLA hater,
Yeah.
but the important thing is you inevitably will come to the conclusion that the KLA did nothing wrong. Like that's where it
All right.
moves.
All right.
No, they did some things wrong. Let's not.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be that guy. Like the KLA was messy. Like I'm not gonna lie, but like
aren't like a bunch of them in the Hague right now for like selling organs or
Probably.
some shit? Yeah.
I don't know. The organ selling thing I don't know about. The drug
don't know?
dealing thing I definitely think was not entirely fabricated.
Yeah.
But like you're gonna get that. Like every liberation movement selling drugs
Sure,
for guns.
sure.
You know, like I don't know. Like
fair.
even my favorite ones have allegations. Like I don't know. Like shit.
True. That's true. You know what? I go into it with an open mind.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, James, thank you for coming on the podcast. What would you like to shout out and like? Yeah, what of your stuff? I mean, where can people find you? and see your hot takes on anything.
Yeah, if you want to see my videos while they're still up, I'm on TikTok, James Gets Political. I'm also on Instagram, also James Gets Political, and on Twitter at Good Vibe Politique. I also have a Substack where I do weekly articles and video interviews of people. I recently released an interview with the Good Shepherd Collective out of the West Bank. I do like written pieces all the time, like long form content. It's called Commie Corner. Check it out. More subscribers on that, the fucking better. I got a YouTube too that I'm not using, so follow me for when I inevitably get fucking banned from TikTok, so I can like start making videos there and not feel like I'm getting 30 likes on a fucking video. But other than that, those are the main platforms for me.
nice.
Well, yeah, thank you again, and Isaac, thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the podcast. Wonderful to see you as always.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
We gotta do
again,
this again
James.
sometime.
Of
Yeah,
course, man.
absolutely.
Thanks
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.